The Defense Against the Dark Arts (DA) course was a rare and enjoyable time for Harry and others. Although after the second half of the year, the Defense Against the Dark Arts community has less and less time to meet, but the enthusiasm of the members is still high. Even say, the Defense Against the Dark Arts Society has been the happiest thing in the boring study life of this group of members. Neville is now preparing for a fight with Ronald. Neville Longbottom was the hardest working and slowest of all the members. But he was never discouraged. Even if he loses to others in every fight, he will choose a member to fight again in every rally. Come on, Neville. Give that stinky guy Ronald some good looks. Ugh, Ronald, don't lose. If you lose to Neville, you're really 250, too embarrassing, ha ha ha. Cut, shut up, I believe Neville can win this time. After losing so long, he should win once. Neville and Ronald stood in the center of the room. The other members were typing for them, clapping and shouting. I bet 10 silver Sickenvilles to win. George pretended to be next to Fred and said. Fred pouted, no, Ronald is our younger brother anyway, so I bet Ronald 10 silver Zikes. 35. Come on, I get the feeling, you look at Neville's tough eyes, look at that kid Ronald, oh come on, it's a shame to be his older brother. George covered his eyes. At this moment, Ronald held his wand, turned his body and waved his hands around, and his expression seemed to have taken Neville. Neville, I will never be soft-hearted. If it were someone else, Ronald might not be so arrogant and dare not give him a chance to back up. Neville is one of the few people who likes to continue to abide by the rules of fighting. And this is the default unspoken rule of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Society. As long as you are fighting against Neville, you are not allowed to make a sneak attack, and you are not allowed to duel in a dignified duel with the indiscriminate tactics learned from Lysha. Neville pursed his lips and grabbed his wand nervously. Ronald, this time I will definitely win. See, Ronald didn't take it to heart. As Harry laughed and called out, Ronald was about to wave his wand to cast a spell, when Neville suddenly shouted, Expelliarmus. Bang 1. The wand in Ronald's hand immediately spun and flew out, falling to the ground with a clicking sound. The place was silent. Subsequently. Whoa. Neville, awesome, you made it. Ha 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 ha, Neville finally won once, woohoo. Neville has improved too. It's really fun. Hit Ronald in the face so hard, make him arrogant, Neville, you're amazing. The surrounding members burst into applause immediately. A voice higher than a voice. Even some people directly surrounded Neville to feel happy for him, and Neville also showed a very happy smile. It worked. He finally managed to win once. Fred reluctantly took out 10 silver coins and handed them to George, complaining, what can we do with this stupid brother, now even Neville can't beat him. George doesn't care about that. Mizzy put the 9 silver coins in his pocket and at the same time threw the remaining silver coin in Ronald's direction. Hey, then our dear brother, thanks for helping me win, Fred. Ronald's face froze immediately. But I still feel very happy for Neville. Not frustrated and annoyed. Harry walked over to Ronald and put his arms around his shoulders. Now that you know, you can't underestimate the enemy. Come on, we'll have to see Grapp later. Hagrid and Harry don't know what's going on. Hermione looked at the excited crowd and whispered to Harry and Ronald. Hagrid told Hermione before leaving. If you can, I hope to help him see Grapp's side at night. Hermione was actually absent-minded today. She was worried about Lysha. But I felt annoyed that I couldn't help myself. However, no one found that today's Defense Against the Dark Arts Society lacked one member to participate. That's Marietta Ackermore. At this moment, Marietta Icamo is trotting here with Umbridge and the Special Operations team. Hurry up, I must let this group of guys eat and walk around today. 35. Umbridge's bloated body broke out at a speed that didn't fit her size, running at the front of the line. Malfoy followed behind with a wicked smile. Humph, Harry Potter, Lysha, I'll see what you guys do this time. You can't imagine it. Marietta Ackermore has revealed all the secrets to us, and you wait to be fired. Filch is also in the running Team 0. With a sick smile on his face. He couldn't wait to see the group of students who didn't follow the rules being expelled, punished, and weeping and apologizing. Especially that pesky Harry Potter. A thought here. Filch felt very relieved. But little did they know, this inevitable action had already been discovered. At this time, the Room of Responsiveness had already waved calm, and everyone was learning some magic spells while walking. Harry was walking back and forth in the crowd. Point out every now and then. Then Harry suddenly saw the door to the Room of Requirements suddenly open and shut. Anyone? Harry looked around quickly, but saw no one. It's wired. But before Harry could ask, he found that everyone was quiet and stopped using magic. Instead, they looked at their legs with strange eyes. He felt someone tug at his robes near his knees. Harry looked down. It was Dobby the house elf. "Hello, Dobby," Harry said. "Why are you here? Has something happened?" Dobby widened his eyes and trembled all over. The other members also gathered. "Harry Potter, she. Dobby said as he slammed his fist into his head, hurting himself constantly. Harry quickly grabbed his arms. "What the hell happened? Who is she?" 3". Seeing Dobby's terrified look, Hermione suddenly said, "Umbridge." Dobby nodded, then slammed his head into Harry's knee. "She's coming here." Harry said something that shocked the members. Dobby let out a scream. Then he slapped his bare feet hard on the floor. Oops. How could Harry, who knew Dobby, not know that this was Dobby punishing himself for revealing a secret that should not have been revealed? Run. Go. 35. In an instant. The whole room of requirement was a mess. Everyone knows what to expect if Umbridge finds out. The wall with many educational decrees hanging on it is a must for all students to go through every day, and they go back and forth to read it 2 or 3 times every day. All members of the Defense Against the Dark Arts will not forget the contents of the 24th Decree. Educational Decree Number 24. All student organizations and societies were disbanded. Student organizations, groups, societies, clubs must be approved by the senior prosecutor, Professor Umbridge. Societies, groups, clubs that are not recognized and approved by the senior prosecutor are not allowed to exist. Any student who establishes or participates in an organization, society, group, or club not approved by the senior prosecutor will be expelled. It was such a severe punishment that everyone screamed and rushed out of the exit. But good house elf Dobby's warning. Let most of the people pour out before Umbridge and the others arrive and run away. Harry could hear the sound of everyone running hard in the hallway, and prayed in his heart that these guys had better use some judgment. Don't try to run back to their respective bedrooms, it's better to go to the library. Harry. Ronald. Hermione screamed at the exit. Harry picked up Dobby, who was beating his head on the ground, and grabbed Ronald, who was still in a daze, and ran towards the exit. After running out of the room of requirement, Harry ordered Dobby back into the kitchen. Seeing the figures that kept disappearing in front of him, Harry glanced around in disgust and ran straight to the bathroom. If he could get there in time he could pretend to stay there forever. But just as he was about to run to the bathroom door, something suddenly tripped over his bare feet and slammed him to the ground. Malfoy laughed as he watched Harry slide some distance. "Sneaky guy, Potter, hello Professor. I caught one." 55. Malfoy shouted excitedly while pointing at Harry. He was so happy. Unexpectedly, he had caught Harry, which made him so comfortable. Umbridge emerged from the corner panting, seeing a satisfied smile on Harry Potter's face. "It's him," she said excitedly as soon as she saw Harry on the ground. "You're amazing, Malfoy. Awesome. Oh, well done, Slytherin plus 50. I'm going to take him away. Stand up, Potter. I'm sure we'll all have a good time this night, huh?" 35. Umbridge is simply too excited. Just by catching a Harry Potter, she already considered the operation a success today. This is the guy that gives Minister Fudge a headache. Harry stood up. He had never seen Umbridge so happy. Her stubby palm gripped his arm viciously, and said from Filch with a big smile. "Look around here and see if you can catch the others. Who the hell leaked the action and almost let them run away, do you think so? Come with me to the principal's office, Potter, I think. Your esteemed headmaster Dumbledore must have much to say to you." 99. Harry was completely stunned at the moment. He did not know how many members were caught or how many escaped. It seemed that Dobby was still a step behind. If Dobby had shown up earlier and told them what was going to happen, maybe everyone would have been safe. Harry was a little scared now that Mrs. Weasley might kill him. Ginny, George, Fred, Ronald is all in this club. If all 4 children are expelled from Hogwarts in one breath, it may be a big nightmare for the kind Mrs. Weasley. He now thought of Hermione again. If Hermione gets caught, she'll be kicked out of school before she takes the normal level wizarding exam, and I don't know if she'll break down. If so, he couldn't even explain to Lin Xiao. It was only the first day that Lin Xiao was away, and they made such a big mistake. Harry was even thinking at the moment. If that amazing guy Lin Xiao is still here, maybe they all run away. After all, that guy always has a lot of options. Harry looked dazed. Umbridge was dragged almost all the way to the principal's office. Umbridge's pace was brisk, and in the blink of an eye she had pulled Harry to the headmaster's office. Umbridge said the command, the stone monster jumped aside, the wall behind it cracked, revealing a stone staircase. They climbed up the stone staircase, and broke in without knocking on the door of Umbridge. Harry stared at the scene in front of him in shock. He never imagined that there would be so many people in the office. Dumbledore was sitting behind his desk with a serene expression, and Professor McGonagall was standing beside him, nervous. Except for them. Harry saw that Minister of Magic Fudge and several Aurors were also in the office. Some of the picture frames of the previous Hogwarts headmasters on the wall have been emptied, and they all ran to the picture frame next door and whispered anxiously to the neighbors. Fudge turned to see Harry entering the room, raised his eyebrows with excitement and said, "Okay. Okay. Okay. It seems our Mr. Potter has a secret to share with us." 99. Harry looked at Fudge with contempt, anger building in his chest. "Minister Fudge, he's going back to Gryffindor Tower." Umbridge cocked his neck proudly, like a dog begging for a reward. It was Malfoy's son who caught him. "Oh, yes," said Fudge appreciatively. "Looks like I need to get the news to 250 Lucius. Well, Potter, I think you should understand why you're here, and why I'm here. Isn't it?" Harry got angry and wanted to answer, yes. He didn't want to show the slightest bit of cowardice in front of Umbridge and Fudge, much less flinch in front of Professor Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall. But when Harry looked at Professor Dumbledore, he shook his head, catching the trace. Harry immediately understood, and quickly changed his words, "I don't know." "Are you saying that again?" Fudge said coldly. "I don't know," Harry replied firmly. Fudge looked suspiciously at Harry and Umbridge at the moment, not knowing how to proceed for a while. At this time, Umbridge flattered and said, "If it doesn't go up, I will bring the whistleblower, and it will be much smoother." In an instant, Professor Dumbledore's eyes flashed, and Harry's face was instantly pale. "Informer." The door to the principal's office opened again, and Umbridge walked in with a curly-haired girl. Mariette passed Harry with her hands over her face. "Don't be scared, honey, don't be scared." Umbridge tried to keep his tone soft, and patted her on the back thoughtfully. "It's okay, you're doing the right thing, your mother will be proud of love, the minister is very satisfied with your performance and will convey it to your mother, trust me." Umbridge looked at Fudge and said, "Minister, this is the daughter of Mrs. Eichmore of the Fleur Network Authority of the Department of Magical Transport, and she is the one who helps us keep watch over the Hogwarts fireplace, you know her." "Mrs. Eichmore," said Fudge cheerfully, "I know, of course I know her, she's a very good wizard, like mother like daughter, come, dear, come to me, and let us here listen to what you have to tell us." Fudge was in a good mood. If it wasn't for the wrong occasion, he would even want to laugh out loud. However, when Mariette raised her face, Fudge jumped backwards in fright, almost a meter away. It looked like Mariette had seen a ghost. After a desperate moan, Mariette revealed her face. At this moment, her face, nose and cheeks were covered with dense purple pustules, and the words, "Informer," were written all over. "Never mind that, dear," Umbridge said patiently, "tell the minister." 35. But Mariette shook her head frantically at this moment. "I'm coming. You stupid girl." Umbridge screamed impatiently. Her patience has been completely wiped out. "Well, minister, this lovely girl found me and said there was something to tell me. She said that if I could go to the secret room on the 7th floor called the Room of Requirement tonight, I would find something powerful for me. She admitted where there was some kind of party, but unfortunately, the curse came into effect at this time." "Yes, it's a curse, I guess they signed some kind of agreement, and the spell on the agreement came into effect, which prevented her from saying too much." Fudge said impatiently, "Then you mean, she can't tell us what the party is now, what the purpose is, and who is involved?" "I don't know," Umbridge said with some chagrin. "But as long as she talks about it, she's going to be miserable and the number of pustules will increase rapidly. You know, minister, I can't force her for the safety of the students, this nasty spell is very subtle." Harry was relieved to hear this. Fortunately, Hermione suggested that everyone sign the non-disclosure agreement. It seems that she made the right decision, otherwise today would be really bad. Dumbledore was still laid back. He also took the time to wink at the uneasy Harry, doing a naughty wink. This made Harry feel a lot easier. Dumbledore's mind wasn't here at all at the moment, he didn't even bother to look at Fudge. In the face of Fudge's provocative eyes, he did not respond. Dumbledore was thinking about Lin Xiao and Hagrid at the moment, not knowing how they were going. "Originally, I wanted to know what Lin Xiao did for the first time. I don't know if it's still possible. Calculate the time. According to what Lin Xiao said, it should be over soon." "Oh dear, don't be nervous, you can just nod or shake your head, okay?" Umbridge said softly. "That's not a leak, and that spell doesn't continue to work." Tell me dear, how long have these gatherings been going on? Are they often held in 6 months? Umbridge and Fudge looked at Mariette expectantly. But she didn't respond. This made Fudge sound annoyed. Trust me, darling, just nod or shake your head, I promise the spell won't hurt you anymore. 35 Umbridge goes on Mariette the kidnapper. But surprisingly, Mariette shook her head. She shook her head. Umbridge looked at her in disbelief, his tone a little impatient. You didn't understand what I said. What I'm asking is, you guys have had at least one party like this in the last 6 months, right? But in Umbridge's expectant eyes, Mariette shook her head again. No. What do you mean by shaking your head? Umbridge suddenly became irritable. At this time, Professor McGonagall, who had been silent, suddenly said solemnly, Miss Mariette, there have been no secret gatherings in the past 6 months, is that what you mean? Umbridge let out a sneer, just about to retort. But Mariette nodded. Wow. In an instant, Umbridge let out a sound as if someone was strangling his throat. Minister Fudge looked at her angrily. Wanted Umbridge to explain. No. No, that's not what you told me. You clearly told me that there is an organization that has not been approved. You often gather to learn spells and secretly form a mysterious organization to try to do something. Umbridge let out a piercing scream. In anger, she squeezed Mariette's shoulders, causing Mariette to groan in pain. Stop. Get your hands off my students. 5. Dumbledore, who had been calm just now, heard Mariette's painful groans, and grabbed her wand and pointed it at Umbridge. Umbridge felt a strong force pushing her backwards. In an instant, several Aurors rushed to Fudge. They took out their wands. Never. No. Harm my students in front of me. 33 Dumbledore said solemnly. The crowd oppressed by the powerful aura did not dare to breathe. Minister Fudge's pupils contracted violently. No one could withstand an angry Dumbledore, Talese, and no one could keep his composure under Dumbledore's aura. Oh. Damn it, we're here to investigate, calm down. Put down your wand and let me ask this girl. Fudge, perhaps annoyed by his behavior, pushed the Aurors away and walked to Mariette. But no matter how he asked Mariette, he shook his head. At the same time. In the giant forest, Hagrid Lin Xiao had already found the giant's territory. Hagrid, if there is danger when you wait, promise me, don't interfere, can you find a place to hide? Lin Xiao said solemnly, looking at the scene in front of him. Lin Xiao didn't know how to describe the scene in front of him. I can only say it was shocking. At this moment, there are many giants with a height of 7 or 8 meters lying in the middle of the forest. Every giant lying there is as huge as a small mountain, one can imagine how spectacular the scene of 7 or 80 giants will be. The loud snoring continued to explode like thunder. Surrounded by the fright, there are constantly bird people flapping their wings and flying away from this area. Not only that. Although Lin Xiao was still some distance away from the group of giants, the foul stench had already spread over the surface, especially the thick and disgusting bloody smell that made Lin Xiao feel a little uncomfortable. Along the way, Lin Xiao saw many skeletons piled up with minced meat. He couldn't identify what kind of creatures it was from those skeletons, but the numbers were huge. But, judging by the giant's reminder, this group of giants must be living a full and hungry life, and it is impossible for everyone to be full. Lin Xiao, the giant's territory is ahead, you follow me, and I will take you to the chief. Hagrid said solemnly. Lin Xiao was relatively calm. After watching it for a while, the shocking mood just now disappeared. Wizards are afraid of 250 giants because the skin of giants is immune to most magic, which greatly reduces the effectiveness of many magics. But this refers to the magic system of Harry Potter time. It has nothing to do with his Kamar-Taj magic system. He doesn't care. As the two got closer to the sleeping giant, Hagrid walked more slowly and carefully, for fear of angering the sleeping giants. Awakened giants tend to be more terrifying than awake giants. Due to long-term hunger and tyrannical bloodthirsty personality, sleeping giants often have little sense and must be treated with care. While walking, Hagrid didn't forget to turn around and give Lin Xiao a gesture of silence. He didn't want to see the chief yet. It was smashed into meat patties by these 8-meter-tall giants. Although the overall IQ of the giant community is not high, it also has its own hierarchy and some ways of survival. Don't look at the giants as if they were stumbling around looking for a place to rest. But the adult male giants are all on the outermost side. Next are female giants, old giants, and young giants. And at the center is the giant chief. Abd carefully walked to the two sleeping giants, picked up a tree trunk with the thickness of an arm on the ground, and stabbed the sole of a giant's foot. The sudden touch made the giant roll over uncomfortably. Oh, it's normal, actually the sleeping giant is a little hard to wake up. Hagrid turned back and shrugged at Lin Xiao. Well, Hagrid, don't be afraid, you've been here once before, they definitely know you. Hagrid turned around and muttered to himself, increasing the strength in his hands by the way. He couldn't forget the last time he woke up the giant with Madame Maxime. The damn giant actually picked up his feet and lifted him upside down. If it wasn't for Madame Maxime, he would have become the food of the damn stupid giant. But the giant was obviously sleeping a little dead, and Hagrid kept catching it with the branches for many times without responding. Well, this is what you forced me to do, eh? Hagrid also lost patience. He directly picked up the trunk and stabbed the important part of the giant, and the giant immediately bowed and roared. Roar! The roar of the rage mixed with pain woke all the giants. The giants roared one after another, and their angry roars seemed to be cursing the first roaring giant. The giant got up angrily and looked around. The scarlet eyeballs indicated his anger. Hey, big man bows his head, here, it's me, Rubeus Hagrid, who came here some time ago with Madame Maxime. Hagrid raised his head and shouted at the giant. The giant lowered his head and opened his mouth to let out a loud roar. Roar! The strong draft sent Hagrid's hair and beard fluttering, and drool and some food crumbs splattered on his face. Hagrid didn't care either. I wiped it off and threw it on the ground, don't you recognize me? I just sent the eternal fire to your chief, and the giant chief will be very happy to see me again. Hagrid was actually a little nervous. He was indeed a little afraid that this group of giants with their brains had forgotten who he was. But fortunately, the mixed giant blood did not make the giant attack Hagrid, but tilted his head to think about who this seemingly familiar guy was. But then the giant suddenly found Lin Xiao behind Hagrid. He even slapped Hagrid, who was struggling to explain to him, aside with a slap, and stretched out his big hand to grab Lin Xiao. Especially the saliva left on the lips. The giant apparently took Lin Xiao as a supper for the toothbrush. Oh no! Lin Xiao, run away, you fucking stupid, it's me. Rubeus Hagrid, I'm your chief's guest. Damn it! Hagrid, who was shot 2 or 3 meters away, rolled and climbed to his feet and rushed towards the giant. At the same time, he did not forget to yell at Lin Xiao to let him run away. If this is caught by the giant, he would swallow Lin Xiao in one bite. Then Hagrid would be ashamed of Professor Dumbledore's exhortation, and he couldn't forgive himself for that. Hagrid's roar and the movement of the giant finally woke up all the giants, and in an instant there were countless rumbling sounds throughout the giant camp. The giants all struggled to their feet to see what was going on. What the hell is interrupting their rest? They are going to smash the guy who disturbs their rest into patties and tear them into pieces with their own hands. At this moment, the giant's territory is the most central. A 10-meter-tall giant opened his eyes angrily, stood up and let out an angry roar. In an instant, the entire giant territory fell silent. All the giants looked at the giant chief in the center with fear, lowered their heads and dared not make any sound. The giant chief grinned with satisfaction. Look at the next second. Bang! A round thing smashed directly in front of the giant chief. Look down. It turned out to be the head of a giant. The giant chief looked at the head of the giant on the ground in disbelief, and for a while did not react to what happened. The owner of this head is a member of their community. He has some impressions. But why did it appear in front of him in this form? Roar! The giant chief suddenly got up and let out an extremely angry roar, and the surrounding giants also responded. Fools all know that this is someone provoking their giant race. Someone is slaughtering their members. The roars of nearly 100 giants overlapped together and exploded like thunder, awakening all the sleeping creatures in this primeval forest, trembling in panic. In an instant, the virgin forest under the moonlight suddenly became restless. Roar of giants. Various garbled growls and chirps. Countless flocks of birds flapped their wings. How could Hagrid remain calm at this moment? The whole person knelt on the ground with a puff, and looked at the scene in front of him in shock. An 8-meter-tall giant. Do not. Now that there is no head, the corpse of more than 6 meters is lying on the ground, the broken neck is red and stench of blood is flowing into the river, and the body is still twitching from time to time as if it is not dead. And above the corpse, a man wearing a red cloak and holding a golden lightsaber in his right hand floated in the sky. Lin Xiao's face was cold and severe. His eyes were full of murderous intent. Just when Hagrid was about to run desperately to protect Lin Xiao, under Hagrid's shocked eyes, Lin Xiao actually stood up straight from the ground and a long knife with golden light appeared in his right hand. Next second, with Lin Xiao's hand rising and the knife falling, the giant's body was separated. Neat. Kill decisively. Hagrid stunned and stammered, Lin Xiao, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Hagrid made a high-pitched sound that didn't match his size. Obviously frightened by this scene, he lost his voice. Lin Xiao landed. Come to Hagrid, Hagrid, come on, take me to the giant chief. He has already seen the most conspicuous giant in the group of giants. He is taller and stronger than the giants around him. Unlike the dazed eyes of the giants, there is wisdom in his eyes. Hagrid got up in a panic. Listening to the constant roar of the giants in front of him, he said in a panic, What? You killed a giant, do you know that you just killed a giant, and it was in front of the chief? Hagrid was full of one idea, Lin Xiao went crazy. Otherwise. How dare he let himself take him to the chief after killing a giant? You must know that the chief rests in the very center of the giant's territory. Lin Xiao, if you want to run, you can still run now, but there may be no chance later. The giant chief is resting in the center of the territory. Once we enter, we will have no way to retreat. Hagrid said very quickly. But Lin Xiao didn't seem to hear Hagrid's reminder, and said firmly again, Take me to the giant chief. Hagrid swallowed hard as he watched the roaring giants. Think of Headmaster Dumbledore's words. Okay. Follow me. Hagrid gritted his teeth and walked ahead. When the giants saw Hagrid and Lin Xiao roaring, they were going to rush to the mountain to tear them apart, to smash the human and dirty half-blood giants who dared to break into their territory into meat patties, but in the roar of the giant chief. Quiet. Can only be divided into two cannot be road growl to express their dissatisfaction. Hagrid's face turned pale now. He felt more and more that Principal Dumbledore made a mistake in agreeing to let him bring Lin Xiao here. This guy. Not a word has been said yet. Not even the chief's face was seen. It actually killed a giant directly. Where is this to make the giants surrender? This is clearly declaring war on the giants. The giant chieftain's copperbell-sized eyes stared at Hagrid and the human wizard who were walking towards him. He had to crush these two guys with his own hands. 0. Ask for flowers. He even dared to kill the giant in front of him. If he did nothing, the giants would not have enough respect for him and would attack him and tear him to pieces. Hagrid trembled before the giant chieftain. Unlike the uneasiness of the last meeting, Hagrid was panic-stricken at this moment. Respected giant chief, the human boy behind me has something to communicate with you. Hagrid made a very strange gesture. It was a gesture of respect dedicated to giants. But this did not quell the roar of the giant chief, who immediately roared. The giant chief stomped hard. Hagrid swayed from side to side immediately, before he steadied himself. 0. Hagrid. Dirty half-blood, you, take people, kill, giants to death. How? 39 The giant chieftain expressed his anger in extremely simple English. Hagrid explained quickly. But in front of the ironclad facts that just happened, it seems pale and powerless. Lin Xiao patted Hagrid from behind. Hagrid turned around. Hagrid, if something happens, don't run around and stay close to me. After Lin Xiao finished speaking, Hagrid stepped forward without waiting for the confused Hagrid. I didn't expect that this giant chief could speak simple English, which was much easier. Another major reason for letting Hagrid lead the way is the fear of not being able to communicate with the giants, which is unnecessary. In Hagrid's jaw-dropping gaze, Lin Xiao walked to the chief. Compared to the 10-meter-tall giant chieftain, Lin Xiao was insignificant. But Lin Xiao didn't care about these, but said in a very calm tone, Hey, idiot. Either surrender or die. An anthropomorphic sneer appeared on the giant chief's face. Surrender? Giants will only surrender to the Dark Lord, only the Dark Lord can bring them a better life, and following the Dark Lord can save them from staying in this damn ancient forest. The giant will not surrender to anyone. The giant chief said in a loud voice. Damn human, die. Speaking of which, the giant chief stretched out his big hand and grabbed Lin Xiao directly, with contempt in his eyes. Hagrid is dead. While grabbing at the human boy, the giant chief roared after saying this angrily. Immediately, countless giants around him suddenly became irritable. He swarmed towards Hagrid. They had received orders from the chief to shred the filthy, 250, half-blood giant and make him pay for waking them to sleep. Hagrid yelled at Lin Xiao in fear, Damn it. Lin Xiao. Whatever you do, you better hurry up, I don't want to be a supper for these giants. He is really going crazy. Going crazy. Why did he accompany this lunatic to the giant's territory? This time as long as I can go back alive. Hagrid swears. No matter what kind of help Lin Xiao asked him to do in the future, he would never agree to anything, even a small request. The huge palm of the giant chief slowly grabbed the tiny human. He didn't care what kind of resistance this human being would make at all. Wizard? Magic? Come on, these really aren't much use in front of their rough skin, just scratching them. Available in the next second. Ow! The shrill roar exploded in an instant, causing all the giants around Hagrid to stop and turn their heads. Hagrid breathed a sigh of relief. Also looked over. It didn't matter at all, he almost gave it away to Hagrid on the spot. The giant chief held the wrist of his right hand with his left hand, and the right wrist was sprayed with blood donation, and there was a broken palm on the ground, which was the right hand of the giant chief. Roar! Damn! Die! Die! The giant chief kept howling in pain, and his body kept retreating. He looked at his broken right wrist in disbelief. At the same time, he looked at the dwarf figure in fear. At this moment, the human who was like food in his eyes was holding a sword-like appearance made of light all over his body, and he just cut off his palm with a light slash. Submit or die. Lin Xiao slowly flew up with the help of the suspension cloak. It didn't stop rising until it was level with the giant chief's head. Facing the giant chief's angry pupils mixed with fear, Lin Xiao questioned coldly. He holds the sword of Emperor Wei Shan in his hand. Full of evil spirits. Impossible. The Dark Lord, surrender, you, impossible. The giant chieftain roared in anger. Although the giant chieftain's words are not satisfactory. But through simple words, Lin Xiao still understood what he wanted to say. Really? The goddamn giant chieftain had already made contact with the Death Eaters. Apparently surrendered to the Dark Lord. If that's the case, then you can die. Lin Xiao said coldly. How could the giant chief sit still? The only remaining left hand grabbed a huge tree trunk beside him and was about to smash at Lin Xiao. Available in the next second. A golden light flashed across. The giant chief immediately felt the world spinning. Until a muffled sound. The giant chief was surprised to find that he saw a giant without a head and right hand standing there. Is this him? Puff. The headless corpse of the giant chief smashed to the ground with a dull sound. The surrounding giants let out a harsh roar like an electric shock and stepped back one after another. Several giants crouched down to touch the giant chief. But under great fear, they retracted their palms. Hagrid was also dumbfounded. Kill, kill. Didn't Lin Xiao tell the giant to surrender? How did you turn around and kill the giant chieftain? He couldn't understand. At this moment, Hagrid's brain has completely shut down, and he doesn't know what to do at all. What the hell is this Lin Xiao doing? Hagrid is crazy. Roar. The next second, an angry roar sounded, and several giants stretched out their arms directly towards Lin Xiao in midair. But how can the giant catch the flexible Lin Xiao Zero? That's a floating cloak. Several golden lights flashed again, and Gulyalu smashed several heads on the ground again. There were more headless corpses on the ground. Lin Xiao had already become a god of killing at this moment, and he did not hesitate to start. In an instant. The entire giant's territory insisted on becoming a giant cemetery. Lin Xiao didn't even blink his eyelids, but whenever a giant dared to make a loud noise or act, he would instantly kill him and take it away with a clean knife. Just a few breaths. Deadly silent. The giants didn't even dare to take a breath, they all pressed their heads and didn't dare to look at Lin Xiao. And under him. There are already more than a dozen giant corpses. Hagrid was already slumped on the ground, terrified. He has lost the ability to think. Frightened by Lin Xiao's decisive killing and thunder tactics, he didn't know what to do. I can only watch it all happen. Lin Xiao looked around in the air. He is very satisfied with the giant's current performance, very satisfied with the quiet atmosphere. It seems. After the deaths of more than a dozen giants, this group of people who are not very smart finally understand what fear is. Lin Xiao didn't show any mercy. Although these giants have humanoid forms, they are no different from beasts. Want to make them surrender? They must be made to feel fear and awe from the heart. 3 Otherwise, truly surrender to him. It can only be compared to cruelty and cruelty, so that they will never dare to betray, so that they will always be in awe of themselves. Very well, Hagrid, looks like it's almost over. Lin Xiao landed above the giant chief's corpse as he spoke, and at this moment he had put on the ring and was about to open the door of the ring. Now. He needs to make these giants understand. Who will be his spokesperson? Looking at the huge ring gate, Hagrid was a little sluggish. Because this was the first time he saw Lin Xiao use magic to create a 7-meter-high hanging ring gate. Not only that. Hagrid also found himself somewhat familiar behind the gate of the rings. What, looks like? Forbidden Forest. And that pile of parts, how does it look like Grap's toy? In an instant. Hagrid looked at the much larger than usual door of the ring and the scene behind the door, and his back was instantly cold, and a chill went from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. An extremely terrifying thought suddenly appeared in his mind. No. Impossible. Lin Xiao shouldn't do this, oh, don't. God, Grap, don't come here. Just as Hagrid thought. Graup suddenly poked his head out of the door of the ring. When he saw the headless corpses of more than a dozen giants on the ground, he was frightened back, with a look of fear on his face. But at Lin Xiao's insistence, Grap still trembled and walked out of the gate of the ring. Stepping on the corpse of the giant who used to be the chief, Grap's face was full of panic, and his eyes swung back and forth uneasy. Oh goddamn Lin Xiao, how can you bring Glopra over? He's just a child, you have to know he's still a child. Hagrid hurried to Glop's side to express his dissatisfaction with Lin Xiao. Perhaps because of Hagrid by his side, Grap's mood was much calmer. At least not desperately running back to the Forbidden Forest. But the crawling giants around him still brought great panic to Grap. Hagrid, you should thank me for bringing Grap over here. Grap will be the leader of this group of giants from now on. Lin Xiao said coldly. What? Hagrid was startled. You mean chief? New chief? Grap? What? Are you afraid that these giants won't listen to Grap's words? Lin Xiao's killing intent flared up again. If you don't obey, I don't mind killing some giants. Feeling the killing intent on Lin Xiao, Hagrid shut up. But the heart was shocked for a long time and could not calm down. Although as a half-blood giant, the death of the giant will also make Hagrid's heart ache, but Hagrid understands why Lin Xiao did this. It turned out that these giants had secretly returned to the Dark Lord's side long ago. No wonder the last time he and Mrs. Maxime came to see the chief with such a strange attitude, it turned out that they had long been secretly hooked up with the Dark Lord. But think about it here. Hagrid was even more puzzled. How did Lin Xiao know about this? According to common sense, no one will know about this matter except the Death Eaters and the Dark Lord. Could it be that there are Lin Xiao's eyes and ears among the Death Eaters? Otherwise, it all doesn't make sense at all. In the end, after Lin Xiao cut down 4 less obedient giants again, the entire giant community finally accepted the fact that Grap became the chief. Not so much a chief. In fact, it should be said that Lin Xiao is the spokesperson of the giants. Lin Xiao has traded the lives of 20 giants for absolute fear and surrender. The remaining giants were conquered from the bottom of their hearts, and could not give birth to the slightest idea of resistance. Looking at the completed tasks in the Supreme Mage system, Lin Xiao knew that these giants had surrendered to him, and it was time to go back. Hagrid, take Grap and let's go back. Lin Xiao shouted to Hagrid, who was patiently comforting Grap. Bring Graup. Hagrid was a little surprised. Didn't you just say that Graup is your spokesman for the giants? Now take it back, 39. Lin Xiao sighed helplessly. Of course I have to take it back. Grap is just a spokesperson and not a real leader. He can't manage this group of giants at all. Hearing the excited look on Hagrid's face, he patted Glop with great joy. He just thought he was going to leave Grap here. Sad for a while. Hagrid, who was standing at the door of the ring gate, looked back. There was still no sound in the huge giant's territory at the moment, only the countless crawling giants were sending Lin Xiao and Graup up. The scene was magnificent. Hagrid never imagined in his life that he would see the surrender of the giant colony. Looking back. Seeing that Lin Xiao, who had appeared in the Forbidden Forest, was silent. He suddenly woke up. I understand why Headmaster Dumbledore values this boy so much, and finally understand what Headmaster Dumbledore means. Really. Now everything is clearly revolving around this young man. The surrender of the centaurs. The surrender of the giant colony. No matter which race it is, the soldiers have enormous combat power. No wonder Headmaster Dumbledore said that they should rely on this young man to fight the Dark Lord in the future. Hagrid even had some doubts. If it was Headmaster Dumbledore who came here, was he sure he could kill so many giants and get out of the crowd? Hagrid actually already has the answer. But he dared not admit it. Headmaster Dumbledore was his most respected person, his guiding light in difficult times, and one of his beliefs. But this young man's fighting power is too terrifying. The magical power is too powerful, and it is simply not comparable to the wizard magic he knows. Perhaps this team could really help them out of the Dark Lord. End this damn thing. Finally. Hagrid went back to his hut in silence. He needed to digest what he had seen, and he would go to Headmaster Dumbledore as soon as possible tomorrow to report what he had seen with his own eyes. But Hagrid didn't know. Dumbledore 250 Headmaster Leto is about to leave Hogwarts temporarily, and he has to take the blame for Harry and them. It was past 10 o'clock when Lin Xiao returned to Hogwarts. When he got into the Gryffindor lounge from the Fat Lady's hole, Lin Xiao found that there were still many people who didn't rest at this time. Take a closer look. Most of them are members of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Society. Fred and George, Ronald and Hermione are all on the list. But he didn't see Harry. Not only that. Lin Xiao also found that everyone had a worried look on their faces and gathered together, not knowing what they were discussing. Oh. Damn, shouldn't we just do nothing? Harry's going to be fired then, Hermione said angrily, scratching her hair. Ronald was equally bitter. No, Hermione, we can't do anything right now. We can go to Headmaster Dumbledore, we can't get Harry fired, he's our teacher, said a member of the D.A. At this time, Lin Xiao, with a puzzled face, walked behind the crowd and suddenly said, "Did something happen?" The appearance of Lin Xiao seemed to make everyone in the Gryffindor lounge find their backbone. A swarm came up. Lin Xiao, what are you doing today? Harry and the others were caught by Umbridge. Somebody gow me, damn it. Don't let me catch it. 35. I just seem to have seen Minister Fudge from the Ministry of Magic and a few Aurors, and that old witch at Umbridge is prepared. 99. Lin Xiao, think of a way, what should we do? Listening to the gossip around him, Lin Xiao probably obeyed what happened. It appears that the whistleblower has appeared. If Lin Xiao remembered correctly, the informer was Qiu Zhang's friend, but he couldn't remember the exact name. Lin Xiao has never forgotten this matter. Therefore, in the second half of the D.A. party, he basically participated in all of them without fail. The reason is that if this happens, he can help these guys more or less. After all, after getting along for more than half a year, Lin Xiao has a good relationship with many people. But never expected. The actions of Umbridge and the arrest of the D.A. community turned out to be today. It is also doomed. Lin Xiao, what should we do? What should we do now? Will we all be fired? Hermione grabbed Lin Xiao's magic robe in a panic, and there were even tears in the corners of her eyes. Lin Xiao patted Hermione and took his hand. He comforted, don't worry, you won't be fired, trust me. If Lin Xiao remembers correctly. In the end, it was Dumbledore who took all the blame. It ends with leaving Hogwarts. So far, Umbridge has successfully ascended the throne and has become the most despised and annoying headmaster since the establishment of Hogwarts. He is also the shortest-serving principal. But Lin Xiao suddenly felt a little unsure in his heart. I don't know if the butterfly effect caused by my arrival will disrupt this rhythm, or whether another situation will occur. Lin Xiao didn't know about this matter. There is no guarantee. But he did think he needed to make a trip to Dumbledore's headmaster's office. Find out. Okay, everyone be quiet. I'll take a look, don't worry, it's not a big problem. Lin Xiao squeezed his hands and instantly became quiet. His words calmed the hearts of the D.A. members a lot. They all looked at Lin Xiao with anticipation. Hermione was a little worried and said, nothing will happen, right? It would be bad if the whistleblower confessed to you. Lin Xiao didn't take Hermione's words to heart. Give it up, give it up. With the expectations of all the D.A. members, Lin Xiao left the Gryffindor lounge and went to the principal's office. And this moment. A sea change has taken place in the principal's office. Mariette was like a two-faced traitor who suddenly turned to the side, shaking her head in the face of Fudge and Umbridge's pursuers. No matter what they say. Mariette refused to admit it at all. Although Mariette could not utter a single word, it was obvious that she was overturning everything she had said. Repost on the spot. This drove Fudge and Umbridge crazy. I can't wait to swallow the truth potion for Mariette and let her tell everything she knows. Apparently they have already reached this point. How can it suddenly become like this? How can it suddenly turn to the side? The two really didn't understand what was going on. But Umbridge and Fudge didn't notice. One of the Aurors who followed Fudge to the headmaster's office at Hogwarts looked odd. The Auror was tall, bald, dark-skinned, and had a gold earring on one ear. His name is Kingsley Shacklebolt. Fudge had always trusted the Auror, even at a high level in the Ministry of Magic. But what Fudge never imagined was that Kingsley Shacklebolt is not only an Auror, he also has this other identity, that is, a member of the Order of the Phoenix. Yes. Kingsley has always been a member of the Order of the Phoenix, like Arthur Weasley. Just when everyone's attention didn't notice him, he quietly cast a spell on Mariette, tampering with her memory, causing her memory to change. That's why Mariette suddenly asked 3 questions. And this scene. Only the wise Dumbledore found out. So. Dumbledore had just given Harry a reassuring application. Kingsley walked over to Umbridge and reassured the angry Umbridge, "Don't push the girl too hard, maybe she's just too nervous." Kingsley's voice softened, sobering up the furious Umbridge a little later. "Oh, thank you, dear Kingsley, maybe I'm in too much of a hurry," Umbridge said with some chagrin. Fudge looked at Umbridge grimly. He would like to see. Umbridge let herself bring the Aurors to Hogwarts. How did she end up? He didn't want to be ashamed in front of Dumbledore. Although. Now this situation seems to have caused him to lose a lot of people. Hee, Minister Fudge, you see, my students don't know what Senior Investigator Professor Umbridge said. Can I send my students to the school doctor's office now? Dumbledore smiled softly. But in the eyes of Minister Fudge, this is a deep irony towards him. Mariette was standing not far from Umbridge at the moment, still clutching her robe tightly, and pulling her eyes down. Her eyes had a strange blankness, and stared straight ahead. Harry suddenly had a strange feeling. This is not what Mariette should look like at all, this is not the Mariette he knew. But these are no longer important. At the very least, he and a club he formed are likely to escape this disaster. Umbridge has gradually calmed down in Kingsley's comfort. She suddenly laughed out, "Dear Minister, I actually have a proof." She was a little unwilling to say how much she was here. It was clear that Dumbledore and Harry Potter could be wiped out, so it seemed that he had to give up the idea. Umbridge suddenly took out a roll of parchment from his pocket, and said triumphantly, "Shuren, it seems that Mariette is not very well, so let's let her rest for a while. I don't know if Potter recognizes this." After speaking, Umbridge flaunted and shook the parchment at Harry. Harry's face changed drastically. Oops. Harry stared in shock at the unusually familiar parchment in Umbridge's hand, the list that had been pinned to the wall of the room of requirement. Damn it! How could he forget about this? Umbridge handed the parchment to Fudge and said, "Miss Mariette told us that someone was breaking the rules of the school and was gradually forming an illegal organization, even like some kind of military organization. I didn't take it to heart at the beginning. After all, Hogwarts is a student, how could he not abide by the Ministry of Magic's education decree?" Having said that, Umbridge looked proudly at Harry and Dumbledore continued. "But when we arrested this group of current criminals, a lot of people ran away. It seems that they have been notified by some people. Fortunately, when we reached the 7th floor, we found this list. Exactly the evidence we need now." 99. A smile finally appeared on Fudge's tensed face. Rubbing the parchment in his hand, he looked at Dumbledore with smug eyes. Great, let me see what's on it." Fudge opened the parchment with a smile on his face, but the next second his face suddenly turned gloomy. "Damn it, how dare you call that name?" Fudge growled angrily, looking at Dumbledore with hostility in his eyes. Umbridge hurriedly leaned over, trying to see what was recorded on it that could make Minister Fudge so excited. "You see what they named themselves," said Fudge angrily. "Dumbledore Army. Dumbledore Army." Dumbledore took the parchment from Fudge from behind and stared at the title Hermione had scribbled months earlier, still looking calm for a split second. For a moment Dumbledore looked up and said with a smile, "Well, it seems that this is the case. Do you want me to write a confession now, or do I just have to make a statement in front of these eyewitnesses?" Harry saw the fear on Professor McGonagall's face, a moment of responsibility. He didn't know what was going to happen. Not just him. Dumbledore's words made Fudge suddenly wonder what to do. "Declaration?" Fudge said hesitantly. "What, of course I disagree, you've got more than that." "Dumbledore's army, Fudge," Dumbledore interrupted Fudge, smiling and waving the parchment in his hand, "not Potter's army, Dumbledore's army." But dash. A moment of comprehension flashed across the rich company, and he took a big step back in horror, making the sound of inhaling. "Yours?" "That's right," said Dumbledore happily. "You organized this?" "Yes." Dumbledore was sure again, and he seemed to be in a good mood. "You recruit these students for your army?" "Tonight is the first meeting," Dumbledore said, nodding, "just to see if they are interested in joining. Of course, I now know that inviting Miss Mariette was not the right choice." Mariette even nodded. Fudge looked at her, then at Dumbledore, his chest heaving with rage. "You're plotting against me," he growled. "Yes, that's right," said Dumbledore happily, not having the embarrassment of being discovered by Fudge. "No. Professor Dumbledore, no," Harry shouted. Kingsley gave Harry a warning look, and Professor McGonagall also stared at Harry to shut him up. Harry now understood what Professor Dumbledore was going to do. And he couldn't let this happen. Be quiet, Harry, or you'll have to leave my office, Dumbledore said calmly. That's right. Potter, shut up, there's nothing, with you here now, Fudge snapped, looking at Dumbledore with a mixture of fear and joy. That's great, I just expected to turn on Potter, but now it seems to be the opposite dash. So you can arrest me instead? Dumbledore said with a smile, it's like dropping a silver seco and picking up a gold galleon. You're right, Albus Dumbledore, said Fudge happily. However. Just then the door to the principal's office was opened again. Everyone turned their heads to look. A teenager Juan wearing a magic robe of Gryffindor Academy walked in. This young man is none other than that. It was Lin Xiao. Facing the gazes of the crowd, Lin Xiao did not have the slightest stage fright, and calmly walked through the crowd to the sofa and settled down. Lin Xiao, didn't you see the Minister of Magic here? Umbridge questioned Lin Xiao immediately. Lin Xiao had a nonchalant expression. Picked up a pastry and said, I see, hello, Minister Fudge, long time no see. The randomness made Umbridge angry. Fudge even picked up the parchment on the table and checked it, and found that Lin Xiao's name was not there. You didn't participate in this organization? Fudge asked. What? The army that your beloved Dumbledore has raised is an army that is dedicated to rebelling against me, Fudge explained carefully. Lin Xiao poured himself a cup of tea, leaned back on the chair and gestured to Dumbledore, is there my name on the parchment? No, said Fudge. Lin Xiao said mockingly, what did you just ask? Puff. I don't know who laughed out loud, putting Fudge in an embarrassing situation, which made Fudge look at Lin Xiao with resentment. But. The thought of Dumbledore being caught by himself made him feel better. Student Lin Xiao, is your task going well? Dumbledore suddenly smiled and looked at Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao nodded and said, very well. That's good, classmate Lin Xiao, can I ask you one thing? If there is a problem, can you help me take care of them? Dumbledore's words surprised everyone in the office. Umbridge and Fudge looked at Dumbledore in shock, then turned to look at Lin Xiao. What is he doing? The current headmaster of Hogwarts, Albus Dumbledore, one of the greatest wizards in the world, is actually asking a student. Instead of Professor McGonagall next to him. How can that be? Fudge's face was horrified as he mulled over the words of Dumbledore minus in his mind. Take care of them. Them? Who? Who are they referring to? Did Dumbledore mean to let Lin Xiao help him take care of the students he had drawn into Dumbledore's army? Or make him temporarily head of the Dumbledore army? Fudge had no answer. Lin Xiao looked at Dumbledore's serious expression. Think about it. He nodded and said, no problem, you can rest assured. Harry and Professor McGonagall stared at the way Lin Xiao and Dumbledore were talking. It's almost like changing identities. Dumbledore finally felt relieved when he heard Lin Xiao's answer. There is him. Then Dumbledore believed that there would not be too much problem, maybe he could take good care of these children, and not give Voldemort a chance to attack Harry. Looks like it's time for me to leave, Harry, I must insist on learning occlumency with Professor Snape. Dumbledore smiled and said to Harry. It's really good, Dumbledore, it's time to go. You don't want to see me taking you in front of your students, so please put down your wand. You will now be back at the Ministry of Magic, accompanied by guards, where a formal charge will be brought against you, and you will be transferred to Azkaban. 5. Fudge said brightly. Oh, Dumbledore said softly, I think we might have encountered something unexpected. Unexpected? Fudge's voice was still excited. I didn't see the unexpected, Dumbledore. No, Fudge. 33 Dumbledore said apologetically, I think I might have found it. 5. Oh. Really? Well, of course, you look like you're struggling with something, and you're worried that I'm doing it in secret. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it in secret at all, I was definitely sent to Azkaban unintentionally, of course you could choose to run away, but that would be a waste of time. 99. Dumbledore spoke slowly. But on the side Umbridge's face slowly turned red, his abdominal muscles also stared at Dumbledore dumbfounded, and he suddenly had a premonition that something big was going to happen. And it was the last thing he wanted to see. Fudge hurriedly issued an order, and the 3 Aurors immediately dispersed to form a circle to prevent Dumbledore from escaping. Don't be silly, Fudge, said Dumbledore kindly. I'm sure these are good Aurors, but if I'm going to use force to get me back with you, I'll have to hurt you. 35. Several Aurors glanced at Fudge nervously, and retreated in their hearts. This is Albus Dumbledore. Recognized as one of the strongest wizards. Even if there were several of them, they were still under pressure to face Dumbledore. So. Fudge sneered, calming himself down. You're going to stand alone against me, Kingsley, Umbridge, and these two Aurors. Are you? Dumbledore. In Merlin's name, no, Dumbledore smiled. Unless you're stupid enough to use force to force me into submission, Cornelius Fudge. 99. He's definitely not going it alone. 35 Professor McGonagall exclaimed, pulling out his wand. But Dumbledore looked at her sternly. Hogwarts needs you, Minerva, to stay out of this. Enough. Stop talking useless. Fudge twitched his wand. Kingsley, Umbridge, arrest him. Lin Xiao sat aside as if he was watching an audience at a big show. While eating cakes, drinking tea. Hey, Lin Xiao, aren't you going to do something? Harry shouted at Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao shrugged. I have more to do in the future. At least. I have to take care of you people, what is it called doing nothing? Lin Xiao didn't want to explain anything to Harry. This move was also Dumbledore's temporary thought, and if he didn't rush to Hogwarts and disappear, Voldemort wouldn't dare to start his plan. After all, Voldemort was still afraid of the old but still powerful wizard. Relax, you don't need to worry about Principal Dumbledore's affairs. Lin Xiao said lightly. Harry was a little annoyed by Lin Xiao's attitude. But nothing was said. Ask for flowers. In his heart, although Lin Xiao is not as important as Dumbledore now, he is used to asking Lin Xiao for advice on some things. At this moment, a silver light swept across the room, and made a collision sound similar to gunshots, and then the entire floor shook. When the second silver light flashed, Professor McGonagall ran up to Harry and dragged him to the ground. Several red-framed portraits screamed loudly, the whole room was covered in dust, Harry coughed in the dust, and a black figure slammed to the ground with a groan of pain. Then there was another scream and a thud. Someone shouted, "No," followed by the sound of shattering glass, frantic footsteps and painful moans, and then there was no sound at all. 0. Lin Xiao, promise me, if Harry is in trouble, help him once, okay? Dumbledore ran to Lin Xiao's side and quickly said again. Well, don't worry. Lin Xiao agreed again, letting Dumbledore leave with confidence. Okay. 33 Dumbledore ran to Harry, who was lying on the ground again, and said, you must learn to shut down your brain, and if you have something, you must go to Lin Xiao to discuss it. Okay, Professor. But how am I going to find you? Harry said frantically. As he said this, the scar on Harry's forehead hurt again, and he felt that terrifying, venomous desire to gnaw on Professor Dumbledore in front of him again, to hurt him. Fudge jumped up from the ground, growling, grab him. Don't let Dumbledore run away. But no matter how Fudge roared, he couldn't stop Dumbledore from leaving. Fawkes hovered in the air over the office and swung towards Dumbledore. Dumbledore rose quickly at this time, and raised his hands to firmly grasp Phoenix Fox's golden tail. Bang! A red light exploded, and the shock wave swept the entire office. Do not! Accompanied by Fudge's unwilling roar. Dumbledore and Phoenix Fox all disappeared from the office. What happened in the principal's office the night before quickly spread throughout the school. No one knows where the news came from. The next day the students and professors talked about it. Dumbledore defeated the two Aurors and the High Inquisitor, the Minister of Magic and his assistants fled. It was true that Fudge, Minister of Magic, was slapped hard in the face. Just so embarrassing. However, a new Ministry of Education order was hung on the decree wall that day. Same as all previous statutes. The person who signed the suffix was still the Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge. But this time it's more exciting. That is Senior Inquisitor Umbridge will replace Albus Dumbledore as the new headmaster of Hogwarts. This 267 situation caused an uproar. No matter where Lin Xiao went today, the only main subject of the conversation was Dumbledore's escape and the matter of Umbridge becoming the headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And I don't know who leaked the news. Lin Xiao and Harry and Mariette were the only students who witnessed everything in the Dumbledore principal's office. This made many students want to find the three of them and ask what was going on. Mariette still lies in the infirmary due to Hermione's curse. And due to Lin Xiao's deterrent force, no one dared to go up and ask questions, which made Harry the target of the student strategy, and they all wanted to know the first-hand description. Oh, let me see, isn't this Gryffindor's brave foursome? How listless. Malfoy looked at the four Lin Xiao who were sitting together with a proud face. As he approached them, he deliberately revealed the silver badge hidden behind the prefect. See. The best students are selected with the support of the Ministry of Magic, but by Professor Umbridge himself. Really? Hope this makes you the Death Eater of your dreams. Harry scoffed. Hermione's expression was also full of disdain. It seems that following that old witch has given you a lot of benefits, at least it makes you look a little more disgusting. Ronald let out a chuckle. Lin Xiao raised his head from a book and looked at Malfoy indifferently. Interesting. It wasn't even a day before Malfoy couldn't wait to show off to his mother-in-law. Oh, it seems that you have a little understanding of this silver badge. Malfoy said with a sneer. Goyle and Crabbe snickered. You may not know that I already have the ability to deduct points. Deductions? Hermione and Ronald were surprised. Ronald said quickly, can a prefect deduct points? Then did you forget that we are also prefects? Malfoy burst into laughter, as if he had heard a very funny joke. Of course not, it has to be a prefect with a silver badge, see? Malfoy gestured to his badge and said, Ronald Weasley, dirty pureblood wizard, 5 points, your clothing is not neat enough. Ronald glanced at his scattered college robes in a panic and yelled, you don't have the right, Malfoy. Oh, no, of course I do. Malfoy said triumphantly. Harry Potter, 5 points for you laughing at the members of the Special Operations Investigation Team. I hope this will give you a better memory. Malfoy enjoyed the feeling, looking sarcastically at Ronald and Harry. Ronald pulled out his wand. Fortunately, Harry quickly grabbed him and said, no. Very clever. I see that Dumbledore's departure finally made the proud Potter understand what it means to bow his head. 35 Malfoy was extremely arrogant, and Goyle and Crabbe laughed even more. Malfoy had been looking forward to this scene for too long. For so many years, he couldn't handle this Harry Potter, and this time he really let out the anger of the years. Especially seeing the two of them can only be incompetent and furious. Malfoy was so comfortable. Malfoy looked to the side of Lin Xiao, just about to speak for some excitement, but when he saw Lin Xiao's icy eyes, he felt as cold as an ice cellar. He decisively gave up the idea, and turned his head to look at the mudblood. Hermione Granger, 5 points for insulting the professor. No, you're a mudblood, so, Granger, 10 points. With malicious laughter, Malfoy insulted Hermione directly. Harry and Ronald were both furious. However, although Hermione felt aggrieved, she still wouldn't let the two of them attack. Malfoy was even more arrogant. Malfoy should never insult Hermione in front of Lin Xiao. He could never have imagined. Lin Xiao would actually beat Hermione directly in front of so many people for the sake of Hermione. As for magic, Lin Xiao believes that using magic Malfoy will never have a long memory. Boom! Hermione only felt a flower in front of her, and a figure rushed out from behind him. Ow! And Malfoy flew straight out and slammed into the wall. Lin Xiao stood in the place where Malfoy was fighting just now, still keeping his punching posture. Heh, Malfoy, since when did you dare to yell in front of me? Didn't your father Lucius Malfoy tell you not to mess with me? Lin Xiao walked slowly towards Malfoy with a sneer. This made Malfoy look terrified. But the pain in his abdomen, apart from gasping for breath, he couldn't say a word. Goyle and Crabbe were also taken aback. Pulling out the wand and 2 spells blurted out. Available in the next second. Everyone only saw Lin Xiao with one hand in front of him, and a golden-red ray of light appeared on his hand to block the 2 magic spells. And Lin Xiao was unscathed. Lin Xiao narrowed his eyes and looked at Goyle and Crabbe, and their wands trembling in fright immediately fell to the ground. They don't know what happened. I don't understand why the thing that appeared in the palm of that guy named Lin Xiao could block their magic. Seeing the beaten pale, Malfoy, who vomited and donated blood, hurried to his side. Go away. It won't be so simple when 1-3 appears in front of me in the future. Lin Xiao said coldly. Goyle and Crabbe quickly helped Malfoy to escape, not even daring to look back. Hermione looked at Lin Xiao's back with emotion. He bowed his head and walked to Lin Xiao's side and said, it's not necessary. You will be caught and reported to that old witch in Umbridge. 9. Lin Xiao turned his head. Don't worry, I won't let others bully you, even Umbridge. Lin Xiao and Harry stood together in Umbridge's office. And Umbridge on the desk put on a high attitude and said with a smile. Oh, Lin Xiao, Potter, I heard that you beat up the special action team, right? Not long after Malfoy was knocked out by Lin Xiao, Harry and Lin Xiao were called into Umbridge's office by Filch. Lin Xiao was amused as he looked at the 2 or 3 magic brooms on the wall. A rocket crossbow is Harry's. The other 2 slightly worn are Fred and George's. I don't know when Umbridge confiscated the magic brooms of the 3 of them. Ma'am, if I have nothing to do, I'll go out first. I'll have to see if there are some damn students continuing to make trouble, Filch said flatteringly. Umbridge gave Filch a self-sweet smile and said, okay, thank you, Filch, your help really saved me a lot of heart. No, ma'am, no. Filch bowed and turned around. Lin Xiao and Harry found that Filch's rheumatism might have improved a lot recently, and he didn't walk so lame. After Filch closed the office door, Umbridge looked at Lin Xiao with a smile and said again, "Aren't you 07 going to give me some explanation?" Classmate Lin Xiao. At this time, Umbridge has a feeling of exaltation. She is now the head of the school. The two also had no Dumbledore backstage. Let's see how they were headmaster. Unthinkable. Lin Xiao didn't panic in the slightest, and said coldly, I didn't, but I regret that it was a little light. Umbridge was choked by Lin Xiao's sudden words. Can only stare at Lin Xiao angrily, trying to give him a little pressure through this silent way. But she didn't know at all. Lin Xiao didn't care about her at all. He walked to the sofa and sat down, just like a master. Students fight. Umbridge can't fire him either. Besides punishment, what else can you do with him? I came here just to see what Umbridge did, otherwise he wouldn't be bothered to come to this office. Umbridge took a few deep breaths to adjust his mood. Smiling again, he greeted Harry sitting on the sofa too. At the same time, he also took out a very delicate teapot and poured a cup of strong tea for each of them. Try it, this is something that ordinary people can't drink. Ministry of Magic agents, I don't think we need to be enemies. Finished wand a little. A plate of delicate pastries appeared in front of Lin Xiao and Harry. Apparently Umbridge didn't call Lin Xiao and Harry here mainly because of Malfoy's business, but because of what he wanted. Lin Xiao watched Umbridge perform with amusement. What does she want to do? Lin Xiao can guess it with his toes. Lin Xiao crossed Erlang's legs and didn't even look at the teacup in front of him. Headmaster Umbridge, I don't think it's necessary to waste time. You can ask what you want to say, but I won't necessarily answer. Umbridge's expression froze. Where is Dumbledore? I know, there must be someone in you and Harry who knows where he's going. Really? Lin Xiao knew that Umbridge would definitely ask them to ask this question. I just didn't expect it to be so fast. It seemed that Umbridge's patience and energy were even worse than he thought, and he couldn't even hold on for a day. Lin Xiao ignored Umbridge's words. Instead, look aside. At this moment, Harry was holding up the teacup and blowing the heat, as if he wanted to drink it. Lin Xiao turned to look at Umbridge again. Although Umbridge didn't wait for Lin Xiao's answer, his eyes kept drifting to Harry who was about to drink tea. Every time Harry's lips got closer to the cup of tea, Umbridge's smile grew brighter. Interesting. It seems that this tea should have been given a medicine similar to Veritaserum. Umbridge Principal, you should ask him about Principal Dumbledore, not our two students. Lin Xiao said with a sneer, at the same time grabbing the teacup from Harry's hand and pouring all the tea on Umbridge's shocked gaze. On the carpet. Not only that. Lin Xiao took the teapot with the remaining tea in his hand, opened the lid and shook it and smelled it. What are you doing? How dare you in the headmaster's office? Umbridge screamed. Lin Xiao's movements obviously stimulated her, making her unable to keep her composure. Harry also looked at Lin Xiao with puzzled eyes. Veritaserum? Am I right? Principal Umbridge? Lin Xiao said playfully. Umbridge's face froze immediately, and he smiled awkwardly. What are you talking about, classmate Lin Xiao? I'm the principal. How could I use this building for students? You misunderstood me a bit. Come on, this pot of tea may not taste right for you, I'm changing a pot. Saying that, Umbridge stretched out his fat hand to grab the teapot in Lin Xiao's hand. It can be avoided by Lin Xiao sensitively. Looks like I guessed right, Principal Umbridge. I want to know which education law supports your behavior. Or is it the prerogative of the principal? 35 Lin Xiao asked aggressively. Umbridge's face turned pale. She never dreamed that Lin Xiao would discover this secret. Umbridge just wanted to use Veritaserum to find Dumbledore's position, but he didn't expect to be directly exposed by Lin Xiao. She was so frightened that she couldn't control her expression. Especially in the face of the increasing pressure after getting up, Umbridge could only back up again and again. Harry also reflected at this time. In disbelief, she took Veritaserum here. Then what do you think? Lin Xiao was a little amused. Can't see it. No wonder Headmaster Dumbledore asked himself to take care of them before he left, and he seemed like a bunch of people to worry about. Harry immediately asked angrily, Umbridge Principal, is what Lin Xiao said true? I will definitely tell Professor McGonagall about this. Umbridge smiled brightly. How could it be? Lin Xiao must be joking. Umbridge, who knew he was wrong, softened. This time, I really shot myself in the foot. I didn't expect this Lin Xiao to play cards so unreasonably. It wasn't that she didn't expect to be found. But in her opinion, Lin Xiao and Harry would not drink at most, and would never tear their faces and pierce them. After all, this is not good for anyone. But it was this Lin Xiao. He didn't even care about this at all, and he just tore his face without leaving his face. Professor Umbridge, I advise you not to use such despicable methods in the future. I was wrong, it should be the principal Umbridge. Lin Xiao motioned Harry to leave the room, and he followed behind with a teacup. Seeing that the two were going to leave, Umbridge immediately persuaded. He quickly said, Student Lin Xiao, I may have accidentally misplaced this, I will definitely pay attention. Umbridge's face flushed when he said this, and he clenched his fists tightly. She was very humiliated. But she had to get the teapot back, otherwise it would be extremely detrimental to her and Minister Fudge. Lin Xiao looked at Umbridge's funny expression and threw the teapot away. Umbridge hastily tapped his wand. The teapot stopped firmly in front of her, which made her take a deep breath and let go of her dangling heart. Available in the next second. The tea in the cup actually splashed out with a hula, and splashed directly on Umbridge, making him extremely embarrassed. Lin Xiao will take it as soon as he sees it. Pushing Harry quickly out of the room and closing the door. Hearing Umbridge's angry screams coming from the door of the room, the two burst into laughter. The atmosphere at Hogwarts changed as Headmaster Dumbledore left the school. It's not just defense against the dark arts classes anymore. Although many course professors still do their best to teach the course, they don't appreciate things outside the course at all, leaving everything to Filch and the principal of Umbridge. Even if a certain bathroom faucet is broken and needs a repair spell to fix it, no professor will fix it. All as invisible. Throw all revenge on the new principal Umbridge and his scumbags. This half-month has kept Malfoy and the others busy. Sometimes you can't even attend classes. The last time Malfoy was beaten by Lin Xiao, he was indeed a lot more honest. At least he didn't dare to trouble the people around him when Lin Xiao was around, and he didn't dare to insult Hermione and Luna at will. He is not stupid. Of course he knew why he was beaten the last time. Not for taking away Gryffindor's credits, but for insulting Hermione. His father, who is a Death Eater, kept himself away from Lin Xiao, so as not to provoke his brows. Of course he wouldn't provoke him if he didn't. Everyone related to him is on his do not provoke list. As for Umbridge. After being exposed by Lin Xiao for the Veritaserum trick some time ago, he was much more at ease. Perhaps it is also because the current position is principal. Maybe because Dumbledore had been kicked out of Hogwarts by her. All in all. Recently, she is not very willing to take the initiative to find some trouble with some professors and students, and she wants to improve the previous impressions of her professors and the academy. But how could the already ingrained impression be changed? It's just a fool's dream. Fred, I always thought our future wasn't in school, should we have a final show? George, you and I think the same. Fred and George stood in front of the huge hourglass-shaped timer, looking at the hourglass representing Gryffindor almost without gems, and said with some indignation. In recent days, Malfoy deducted some points from Gryffindor through the new rights granted by Umbridge. It could even be said to be deducted. This smoky environment made Fred and George finally make up their minds to leave. Fred and George have been very dissatisfied since the last time Umbridge confiscated their broomsticks. Seeing the timer today finally wears down the patience. Furthermore, the two of them have saved enough money to open a store with Harry's help, and all kinds of magic products have received enough feedback and adjustments to start selling them. It's just that I have been worried that the mother at home will break their two legs and dare not take action. But open now. There is no need for them to stay at Hogwarts today. Continuing to stay here has not found the joy of the past. Under the promulgation of various decrees and various new school rules introduced by Umbridge, a magical school full of energy and laughter has now become a Ministry of Magic training school for cramming teaching. Hogwarts now has a Ministry of Magic feel wherever it goes. Dead, dull, depressing. This made Fred and George not wanting to stay here at all. Come on, dear Fred, let's bring back the laughter we used to have in this school. George bumped Fred next to him. Fred smiled knowingly. Walk around, go to Lin Xiao to say goodbye, at least let him help take care of our stupid brother. The two hit it off and ran towards Lin Xiao's class. At this moment, Lin Xiao is taking a spell class. The cute little old man Professor Flitwick is still standing on the book explaining the new spell and the wand swing method to the first grade students. Fred and George knocked on the door playfully and called out Lin Xiao. Professor Flitwick just complained, but did not stop it. Why did you come to me? Lin Xiao, who had closed the door of the magic spell class, asked with some doubts. Fred took out a quick-acting class escaping candy and gave Lin Xiao excitedly, Hey, George and I are leaving for your grand opening gift in advance. George pointed to one of the candies and said, Yes, we are leaving, these are for you, if you want to skip class in the future, continue I recommend nosebleed nougat. Gone. Lin Xiao suddenly understood. It seemed that it was indeed time for Fred and George to leave. This is also the most glorious moment in their schooling career for so many years, and it is also the moment when they get the most sincere and warmest cheers. Hello, I wish you both success. Lin Xiao didn't say much. Put all the candy in my pocket and sincerely blessed the two of them. Fred and George looked at each other, a little surprised, and Fred said, "Aren't you asking where we're going?" "We're going after Headmaster Dumbledore, 5. "Yeah, I didn't expect it, Headmaster Dumbledore chose us, and we're going to fight the Death Eaters." George added fuel to the side. Lin Xiao was speechless. These two goods. It really comes when you open your mouth, and the mischievousness is really engraved in the bones. George and Fred carefully looked at Lin Xiao's reaction, but the result disappointed them both. This one must not be surprised. Fred said a little boringly, "Lin Xiao, aren't you surprised?" "It's boring." George shook his head helplessly. "I really can't lie to you, if it were Harry and our stupid brother, I would have been fooled long ago. By the way, we're here to let you take care of our idiot brother. After all, Fred and I are gone. I'm afraid that idiot like him will often cause trouble. You know, he follows Harry every day." George put his arms around Lin Xiao's shoulder and whispered. Lin Xiao sighed helplessly. Sure enough. I knew that these two goods would not come to say goodbye to me like this. Wang Zhao, don't worry, I also promised Principal Dumbledore. Lin Xiao said with a smile. Fred and George laughed happily when they heard this. As long as they could get Lin Xiao's promise, they could leave with confidence. The one they both worried about the most was their stupid brother Ronald. Now you can have no worries. Then, Lin Xiao, then look good, the next thing is our new product, let's get started, Fred. George jumped 2 meters away in excitement, took out his wand and looked at Fred. Fred also took out his wand. The two stared at each other, yelling at the same time. Fly the broom. Most of the professors and students are in various classrooms at the moment. Umbridge was also teaching 5th grade defense against the dark arts class, and she was telling the story of a certain era in the wizarding world according to the textbook. Harry and the others sat in the classroom with a look of despair. Hey, Harry, why don't we use Fred and George's quick-acting candy? Ronald said helplessly. He sees Umbridge tumbling in his stomach as he walks back and forth in front of him. I've heard people say I've vomited before. Ronald didn't believe it. Thought it was just a joke. Now he believed it. Umbridge was indeed a little disgusting, especially the strong perfume sprayed, which constantly irritated Ronald's stomach. Harry glanced at Umbridge, who was already far away, and said in a low voice, Ronald, are you stupid? Don't you know that Umbridge is catching quick-action truancy candy now? Many students have been punished. 39. Hermione stared straight ahead and opened her mouth slightly. Shut up. Do you two still want to eat confinement? Ronald and Harry shut their mouths immediately. Since Umbridge became the principal, he has begun to focus on the investigation of quick-action candy. Although it is said that there is a little bit of eyebrows now. I know that the students who skipped class are because of some 280 candies with magic, but I don't know where they came from. However, she believed that she would soon find out. Umbridge has issued a new school policy. All students are not allowed to bring any food in their pockets, including candy, except during mealtimes. This has disillusioned many students who want to use quick-acting truancy sugar to skip classes. Just obediently go to the defense against the dark arts course taught by Umbridge. Not only that. Umbridge also ordered the special operations team to check the pockets of students at any time, and if they caught it, they would be punished with confinement and punishment. This has indeed greatly stopped the situation of skipping classes with quick-acting skipping sugar. Now that's what Umbridge has to do. Find and expel students from Hogwarts who make and sell quick-acting candy, and never allow these people to contaminate the Hogwarts teaching environment. But Umbridge probably can't think of it. The student she wanted to arrest had now decided to drop out of school, would not continue to study at Hogwarts, and had decided to find another way of life. Filch is cleaning up in the Umbridge office. It was the first time Filch took the initiative to clean the principal's office in all his years at the school. After all, there are hundreds of house elves in Hogwarts. All the chores are all house elves are responsible for, including cooking, cleaning and arranging some accessories and so on. There is absolutely no need for someone to do these things on purpose. But Filch didn't care. Ever since Umbridge became headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, he has come to sweep once a day, trying to be spotless to his satisfaction. He had never felt that the air at Hogwarts could be so beautiful. The running and noise of the students could not be heard. Don't worry about someone being naughty. Even the number of students who violated the rules was much less. This is simply heaven. Just as Filch was sweating profusely finishing today's cleaning task, a strange sound suddenly sounded. It sounded like he was breaking free of some kind of restraint. Looked up. Filch was horrified to find that the two old magic brooms fixed on the wall began to struggle violently, accompanied by two bangs. The magic broom broke free immediately, smashed through the door of Umbridge's office, and flew out. Not only that. In the process, Filch's freshly cleaned room was heavily dissatisfied with dust and bumped into a lot of ornaments and cat photo frames on the wall. Filch hurriedly chased after him in anger. He must see who dares to mess up the principal's office at Umbridge. What the hell is a student? He must lock them up. At this moment, if any students are still in the corridor, they will surely see an extremely rare picture. Filch, who has been suffering from rheumatism for many years, actually ignored the pain and limped in a certain direction, which was extremely funny. At the same time, there are still two magic brooms in front of them that are racing recklessly. When Lin Xiao saw Fred and George riding on their magic brooms, he knew the good drama was about to begin. Then, Lin Xiao, it's time to say goodbye. Fred smiled and waved his hand. George is very excited. Brother, let's start, what are you waiting for? I can't wait. Woohoo. Let's go. The show that belongs to us has begun. Fred and George instantly soared into the air and flew below the ceiling. At the moment Umbridge is pleased with the performance of these students. This is what the Ministry of Magic wants. Just as she walked back to the podium to take a sip of strong tea. Bang! The entire classroom floor shook, and Umbridge almost slipped, and if she hadn't grabbed the lectern, she might have slid directly to the ground. But all the strong tea in her hand was splashed on her face. Umbridge squeaked like a pig from the hot tea. Harry and the others also laughed wildly. Among them, Ronald even laughed wildly and frantically, and even hammered the table desperately. Seamus and others exaggerated and covered their stomachs and laughed. Because it's so funny. Shut up. Umbridge growled hysterically, making the classroom quiet a lot. But still couldn't stop the laughter. Some students even blushed and sweated profusely. Damn guy. Umbridge didn't even have time to wipe the tea off her face, and wiggled to the door of the classroom. She wanted to see which guy who wasn't afraid of death was making trouble. Sit me in my own place. Who dares to follow me to confinement? Punishment. Umbridge walked to the gate and turned back and screamed. But that doesn't stop the students from wanting to see what's going on. Umbridge stepped out on his forefoot. The students stepped out on their backs. At this moment, there are already many students in the entire corridor waiting to see what happened. Umbridge was stunned by the scene in front of him. Because she actually saw a green dragon and golden sparks flying up and down the corridor, making a hot wind and a loud noise, and as they passed, they spun wildly in the air like flying saucers with mortal danger. The long-tailed rockets bounced off the walls, spewing silver and sparkling waking up. There was something like a wheel rolling back and forth on the ceiling, and it kept making a loud explosion. There are also gems that automatically write certain spells in midair, and every time a spell is written, a tongue of fire will hit the wall, which is probably the source of the floor vibration just now. Because its power is too great. It's hard to imagine that if this thing hits a person, it will directly shatter the bones. Not only that. There are also some firecrackers that keep exploding like landmines, unless they make a squeaking sound. These fireworks are, without exception, full of vitality and energy. Umbridge was petrified. Watching all this happen in a stunned manner, my brain has been shut down, and I don't know what I'm thinking. Filch also panted and ran to Umbridge's side, staring dully at the fireworks, what we call fireworks for now. Then something resembling a wheel whirled towards Umbridge and Filch, making a vicious whine, and they both screamed in horror and fell. This sent that will dazzle flying out through the grass from the window behind them. Meanwhile, some dragons and a large purple bat scurried through the open door at the end of Zhong Lang to the second floor. Quick, Filch, quick, screamed Umbridge. They'll fill the school if we don't do anything and pass out. Her wand shoots red light and hits a rocket. But this spell did not stop the rocket, instead it exploded directly in the air. Not only that. The exploding rocket also knocked a small hole in the lawn where a wizard, who appears to be covered in stone, was in one painting. Fortunately, the person in the painting ran to the next door in time, the painting was spared death. Filch. What the hell do you do? Umbridge yelled angrily, remember, don't let them faint. 39. But Umbridge seems to have forgotten. Filch, her best assistant at Hogwarts, is a squib who can't use magic. Even if he wanted to do something, there was nothing he could do. You're right, Headmaster, Filch gasped, looking like he couldn't stand any more firecrackers going off. At this time, Filch saw an explosion flying a little low, picked up a bunch of brooms and started hitting those things hard, and the brooms caught fire in a short while. All the students are crazy. Excited yelling while running back and forth trying to catch two explosions. The depressing days have been too depressing recently, and they are all shouting to vent their unhappiness. Harry and the others were also laughing and turning back and forth. Don't guess. These must be the masterpieces of Fred and George, and Harry et al. Are among the few who know the secret. Ronald was a little excited and a little worried at the same time and muttered, "Aren't Fred and George really afraid of their mother hitting them? They will be fired." "Ronald, don't worry." Harry tried to jump up and grab a tiny firecracker, but failed. "You think Fred and George will continue to study after all this? My stupid friends, they don't miss it." "What?" Ronald was surprised, and at the same time admired his two naughty brothers. "I silently prayed for them in my heart. Hopefully Ms. Weasley won't pass out with anger at the news." However, this concern did not prevent Ronald from also falling into the ocean of Carnival. Hermione was equally grinning. At this moment, she suddenly saw Lin Xiao in the distance and ran over happily. "Fred and George." Hermione ran to Lin Xiao and asked with a smile. Lin Xiao nodded, "It's the two of them. It seems that they will definitely sell well after this time, don't you think?" Hermione gave a sweet smile, "It will." At this moment, Umbridge and Filch prepared a red giant dragon to run around the ground. The giant dragon was huge and its whole body was made of flames. And the dragon seems to be eyeing Umbridge. Even if Filch and Umbridge escaped in two directions, it still bites Umbridge and doesn't let go until it swallows it and explodes, blowing Umbridge's black body away. This made many students burst into laughter again. The other side. Professor McGonagall was teaching Transfiguration when suddenly a dragon ran into her class. But Professor McGonagall pretended he couldn't handle it, and sarcastically said to one of his classmates, "Oh dear, would you mind helping me find the headmistress, saying that we have a fugitive firework in our classroom that she needs to deal with?" Professor McGonagall didn't even pick up his wand, just waiting quietly for Umbridge to handle the firework. Not just Professor McGonagall. Professor Flitwick, Professor Snape, Professor Hagrid, etc. all sent students to find Umbridge. Let her take care of these wildly running fireworks. This afternoon was a complete nightmare for Umbridge. She is like a firefighter, running around the school all afternoon, waiting for the call of other professors, and it seems that there is a classroom that can drive fireworks out of the classroom. Umbridge didn't even have time to find out who was setting off the fireworks. Because she really has no extra energy. When the final bell rang, the students of the various colleges were ready to return to their common rooms. Flowers. Umbridge finally left Professor Flitwick's classroom with a look of relief and contentment, with tousled hair. She finally finished all the firecrackers in one afternoon. Now she just wants to go back to her office to take a good rest and change into her favorite clothes. But just when everyone thought it was all over. Whoosh! The two men on broomsticks passed quickly over Umbridge's head, and they kept laughing. "It's not over yet, we still have a lot left. If there is a need to buy, everyone can come to Diagon Alley, and the Weasley brothers are happy to help everyone." 0. Fred and George kept moving in midair, throwing a new round of firecrackers. This time the two deliberately slowed down the flight speed. "And don't forget to turn back and throw a happy gesture towards Umbridge, shouting, 'Dear Headmistress, goodbye, I don't think Hogwarts is us anymore.'" After he finished speaking, he threw a big fire dragon again. This left Umbridge in a daze, his wand clacked. The students were running after Fred and George, wondering what they were going to do. Until the two flew out of a gate. After leaving a huge W-shaped firework in the sky, it flew out of the Hogwarts treasure. And leave only a vague word to the students. "The Weasley brothers are waiting for you at Diagon Alley, come to us if you need happiness." 99. The students burst into excited shouts and shouts. It's all a big shout out to the Weasley brothers for their courage. This series of blatant operations by the Weasley brothers has also become the idol of many students. "Do not!" Umbridge screamed angrily. Seeing the fireworks reappearing in various classrooms, she was completely devastated. The departure of Fred and George is undoubtedly the hottest topic at the moment. In particular, the two of them slapped Umbridge in the face, blatantly violating countless regulations, and also made Umbridge disgraced. Most importantly, Umbridge had no way of taking these two. Fired? Sorry, they have already dropped out of school automatically. Looking for a parent? Looking for a parent? Fred and George were no longer Hogwarts students. As for deducting Gryffindor's grades, all Gryffindor students and Dean Minerva McGonagall didn't care. Because there is nothing left to hold. Basically, Malfoy found all kinds of reasons to deduct it. This year's Academy Cup Grid 280 Ranfinder has been regarded as giving up automatically from top to bottom, and he doesn't care at all. And Umbridge hasn't shown a smile since that day. According to reliable sources. In order to deal with the firecrackers running around that night, Umbridge took Malfoy and Filch and the others' toss for a whole night. It wasn't until dawn the next day that most of the firecrackers were barely cleaned up. But there are still many fish that slip through the net. These stray fish may have been casted with some kind of evasion spell, and they will find some places with few people to wreak havoc. And the other professors at Hogwarts are all hands off. As long as there are no firecrackers in their classrooms, they generally don't care. If any firecrackers show up in their classroom, they simply send a student to find Umbridge to take care of it. The professors are all trash wizards. Not even a spell would be used on firecrackers, even if they knew what to use to finally get rid of the trouble. This has become a talking point for many students after a meal. Well, my mom sent me a shouting letter, why did Fred and George get into trouble and I got scolded? Ronald sighed as he poked the pudding with his fork. Harry was amused. Ronald looked at Ginny across from him and asked, Ginny, did Mrs. Weasley send you a shouting letter too? Ginny looked up in confusion. No, Ronald isn't joking. Ronald immediately complained indignantly when he heard this, just kidding. Mom is so partial, why did I get scolded by Fred and George for getting into trouble and not give it to Ginny? What does that mean? Ginny asked curiously, Harry, what is the content of the shouting letter? Harry raised his voice and tried to disguise Mrs. Weasley's voice as he growled, Ronald Weasley. You'd better be honest with me at school. If I'm not until you're breaking the rules, or studying with Fred and George, you'll be fine. No need to go home. Puff. Maybe Harry learned too much, and Ginny and Hermione next to them spit out the food directly from their mouths. Not far away, Seamus, who was looking here, also burst into laughter. They couldn't forget Ronald's expression that day. As if he really saw something extremely terrifying, his face turned pale with fright. Oh, Harry, don't you have to study? Ronald said frustratedly. He was deeply resentful at the moment. Harry didn't stop imitating his good friend's crying face, but started to imitate Ronald's expression that day. This made everyone around him smile. Lin Xiao also watched with relish, but did not expect such a thing to happen. Fred and George just left, are they really going to open a shop? Hermione asked Lin Xiao next to him. Maybe it's a bit close. Lin Xiao actually smelled a faint floral fragrance. Looking at Hermione suspiciously, she found that her hair was unusually neat today, and she didn't have the usual dusty feeling, everything looked extremely comfortable. Lin Xiao thought for a while. As if she didn't know where to start, Hermione was dressed like this. There is no more dusty, messy hair image of the past. Hermione blushed a little at Lin Xiao's stare, turned her head and pretended to be calm and ate the cantaloupe, pretending to say, what are you looking at? Haven't seen it. But she was a little snickered in her heart. Has this fool finally found out? Ginny also glanced at this momently, with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. Formerly Ginny's love mentor. It was she who told Ginny not to be too nervous in front of Harry, not to take Harry as everything, to meet more boys, and to go with the flow. This would allow Ginny to face Harry in a normal state of mind. It's not like I used to blush when I saw Harry and couldn't say a word. And now Ginny is Hermione's love mentor. Ginny has a very delicate mind as a girl. She guessed early on that Hermione and Lin Xiao had different feelings than friends. Ginny also kindly reminded me. Let Hermione try to pay attention to her appearance a little bit, don't look dusty every day, and don't have a messy hair. Appropriate deal with. To make others seem more comfortable. Hermione said that Ginny was talking nonsense, but her body was honest. Since Ginny told her these words, Hermione began to change. Take care of the messy hair every day, pay attention to the appearance, although it is not delicate, it gives a very clean feeling. But what made Hermione more depressed was that Lin Xiao never found out. It's good now. He finally realized his change. Thinking of this, Hermione couldn't help feeling a little bit happy. After all, a woman is a person who pleases herself. However, Hermione waited happily for a long time without waiting for a word, as if Lin Xiao was already mute. He raised his head suspiciously. Hermione found that Lin Xiao's gaze was no longer on her body, but on the ceiling of the auditorium. He looked up suspiciously. Not something strange, but a group of ghosts wafting to and fro on the roof. Hermione asked curiously, what are you looking at? Lin 1. 3 Xiao didn't answer, and still stared at the ceiling of the auditorium, as if he was looking for a ghost. This strange move quickly attracted the attention of those around him. Harry and Ronald and Ginny all looked up to see what Lin Xiao was looking at. But looking around, there is nothing. Certainly. Except for those various ghosts. Half an hour. Lin Xiao suddenly asked, "Have you seen the crying myrtle?" Everyone was stunned. Weeping myrtle? Hermione asked, "Why did you mention myrtle all of a sudden?" Lin Xiao lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then raised his head quickly and pretended to be unintentional, just to ask, "I heard that there is such a ghost, but I have never seen it." Everyone slammed, expressing boredom. They thought that Lin Xiao would say something, and after a long time, they just asked curiously. "Really boring. She is usually in the women's bathroom, of course you can't see her anymore." Hermione gave Lin Xiao an angry look. Damn would nots. Some angry Hermione also began to imitate Ronald's fork and kept poking the pudding on the plate, and after a while the kung fu pudding became riddled with holes. Ginny covered her mouth and snickered. Looking at Hermione's angry look, he seemed to see his former self. Some empathy. Lin Xiao was a little absent-minded about eating at this time. Because just after he looked up and saw the ghosts wandering in the air, he realized that he had missed a very interesting thing. That's Weeping Myrtle. There is no ghost that occupies a huge role in the Harry Potter world. Even on the eve of the final battle, it was Myrtle's shadow. After Draco Malfoy joined the Death Eaters, he would often talk to the Crying Myrtle about many things, which led to a deep friendship between the two. Even the Crying Myrtle saved Draco Malfoy at the last minute. Besides, Lin Xiao also had a ghost that he really wanted to see. That is the founder of Hogwarts Ravenclaw House, Helena Ravenclaw. The witch who was smarter and more famous than her mother. It was she who stole Ravenclaw's crown of wisdom, hid it in a hollow tree hole in the Albanian forest, and told Tom Riddle about it. Nature. This Ravenclaw's crown also eventually became one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. But be curious. Lin Xiao thought that now was not the time to disturb Helena, and he had to wait a little longer. He didn't want to startle the snake. Since Voldemort has regarded him as a thorn in the flesh, Lin Xiao is absolutely impossible to sit still. Inevitably. It's just a matter of sooner or later. Lin Xiao is not Albus Dumbledore and Harry Potter, he is all the secrets up to Voldemort. If he really does something, it must be a snake and a 7-inch. Never let Voldemort spit out a mouthful of old blood. After such a simple lunch, Lin Xiao and the others separated and went back to the dormitory to rest. There is no class in the first session of the afternoon. And Hermione and others are very busy every day due to their busy preparations for exams. You can't be as dashing as Lin Xiao. Both Harry and Ronald have told Lin Xiao more than once that they are very envious of his current life, and they really want salted fish. But it can only be thought. Especially Ronald. With the fact that Fred and George just dropped out of school, if he fails the OWL's exam, it is estimated that what awaits him at home is definitely not Mrs. Weasley's smiling face, but a meal of stir-fried meat. However, when Lin Xiao came to the door of the Gryffindor lounge, a pretty figure stood in front of the fat lady. It was Luna. This time, Luna didn't stare at Chang Shang's photo frame in a daze, but stared at the fat lady in a daze. This made the fat lady extremely helpless. She tried to chat with this little girl, maybe Luna didn't have the desire to chat, but kept looking at the picture frame where the fat lady was. This made the fat lady mutter for a while, not knowing what Luna wanted to do. Even the fat lady wanted to open the hole for Luna directly. "Luna, why are you here?" Lin Xiao asked as he walked to Luna's side. Seeing Lin Xiao and Luna greeting Mrs. Fatty was like seeing a savior, she quickly said, "Oh, dear classmate, is this little girl here to find you?" "It's great, she's been waiting for you for a long time." Luna turned around and said in a clear voice, "Lin Xiao, do you have time?" Seeing Lin Xiao nodded, Luna laughed happily. "Then can you walk with me?" Luna looked at Lin Xiao with expectant eyes, like a kitten. "Sure." Madame Fatty finally breathed a sigh of relief as she watched Lin Xiao and Luna go away. Freed. Is this girl the Luna who was called the Mad Girl? The fat lady thought. Lin Xiao and Luna walked through the corridor and sat down by the lake outside Hogwarts Castle. Lin Xiao also didn't know how Luna came to him suddenly. Think about it. I found that I really hadn't seen Luna in a while. Does she have an idea? It was also said that Lin Xiao really guessed right. Luna has been feeling a little lonely lately, an emotion she rarely has. Since Luna entered Hogwarts for 4 years, she has basically had no friends, and everyone has stayed away. After all, Luna did not make a good impression on unfamiliar people. Mysterious and mysterious. God babbling. That's why she got the nickname Mad Girl. But this year is very different, even the happiest year in Luna's life since her mother left. Not only met the first friend Lin Xiao. Also met many like-minded friends in defense against the dark arts. Among them were Ginny and some girls from Hermione. In Luna's view, every day of this year is so happy, and even full of hope for the future. 280 But Luna was very frustrated after the defense against the Dark Arts Society was taken away in one pot. Not only did it cost her social and group activities, but it also cost her the opportunity to communicate and play with her best friends. After all, Luna belongs to Ravenclaw College. Ginny, Hermione, and Lin Xiao are all at Gryffindor Academy. Coupled with the recent activity of Umbridge and the Special Operations Investigation Team, many members of the Dumbledore army are deliberately avoiding each other. People are like that. Once you feel the beauty of living in a group, you will feel lonely outside the atmosphere when you are alone. Luna is in this situation at the moment. She originally thought that she could return to the previous state of mind, but she found that it was impossible. Even more eager to spend the time with Lin Xiao and the others. That's why Luna came to Lin Xiao. As for what to say. To be honest, Luna really didn't think about it. Even just sitting by the lake like this, Luna was happy again at this moment. Looking at Luna's overflowing smile. Lin Xiao understood. What a lovely girl. After doing it for a long time, neither Luna nor Lin Xiao said anything. They are all enjoying this long-lost peace. Especially Lin Xiao. Suddenly there is an inexplicable apology to Luna. After all, he had told Luna that he was her first best friend, but he didn't expect to neglect her for so long recently. It must have been quite disappointing. Lin Xiao, when will Headmaster Dumbledore be back? Luna asked suddenly. Lin Xiao was startled. Soon, not very long. 55. That's good. Luna smiled happily. As soon as Headmaster Dumbledore came back, the Hogwarts she loved would be back to the way it was. Lin Xiao also didn't ask what Luna said. But she didn't say Lin Xiao could guess it. After all, Hogwarts is now a bit of a smog caused by Umbridge, and even the students have lost their vitality, and they are all dead. It was useless for Lin Xiao to tell Luna Dumbledore the exact time to return to school. Because he doesn't know either. He just knew that soon Harry and the others would be caught in a conspiracy. And this conspiracy was prepared by the long-silent Voldemort himself, using the soul connection between him and Harry to specifically target Harry as a trap. Lin Xiao knew that it was useless to remind Harry now. He won't believe himself. And even if he could believe what he said, he would still fall into the trap. Because Voldemort had caught Harry's soft spot. Forcing Harry to jump in. And in that trap, Sirius Black will be killed, and the Ministry of Magic will witness Voldemort and begin to admit that Voldemort has indeed returned. It's like pulling one hair and moving the whole body. Maybe that's not a bad thing for the wizarding world today. Lin Xiao didn't really want to intervene either. Let it go. Lin Xiao and Luna sat by the lake for a long time. Oops, I forgot, Lin Xiao, Professor Fezellen is looking for you. 35 Luna said suddenly. Lin Xiao was a little silly. What's the meaning? Luna blushed unusually, feeling a little embarrassed. She forgot something so important. In fact, Luna didn't simply come to Lin Xiao at first, but just forgot to talk about it while waiting. Or maybe it was the fat lady's portrait that made her so fascinated by it that she forgot about it. In short, forget it. Lin Xiao smiled angrily, rubbed Luna's hair and said, "Where is Professor Fezellen? You are not afraid that he will punish you next time in class?" Luna shook her head, "Professor Fezellen is very gentle and won't punish me." Luna, who was a little silly, didn't realize that Lin Xiao was joking, and answered with a serious expression. This made Lin Xiao burst into laughter again. What a silly girl. Lin Xiao stood up and patted the grass clippings on his body and reached out to Luna, "Will there be a class?" "If there is no class, come with me." Luna tilted her head and said seriously, "Professor Fizran said that he asked me to come to you, but didn't ask me to go there, it would be very rude." Lin Xiao withdrew his hand resentfully. After thinking about it, it was a little funny, and messed up Luna's hair again before turning and leaving. "Okay, you're right, you remember to go back to the castle early." Luna laughed secretly as she watched the back of Lin Xiao leaving, and the smile was very satisfied and happy. Maybe forgetting a thing or two every now and then isn't a bad thing. According to Luna, Professor Fezellen should be waiting for him at the outer edge of the Forbidden Forest. Lin Xiao actually guessed that Fezellen would definitely look for him once. Thinking about it, he should already know what happened in the Forbidden Forest. Unexpectedly, he was able to endure the wait for so many days, which surprised Lin Xiao. After all, Marjorie, the leader of the Centaur community last time, expressed his surrender in front of everyone's eyes, and Fezzelin, who was also very important in the Centaur community, definitely wanted to have a good chat with him. After all, Phazran and Magray are both the most talented divination talents in the current Centaur community. It's strange that I don't want to have a good talk with him. What Lin Xiao didn't know was that Fei Zilan was actually looking for Lin Xiao to have a good talk the next day. It's just that it's been delayed until now because of some things. The Centaur community finally surrendered to Lin Xiao with the consent of the three of them. And Fezzelin wasted time because of this. A recognized traitor to the Centaur community, Phazran has been sidelined since taking over as professor of divination at Hogwarts. It is impossible to even get close to the Forbidden Forest for half a step. Otherwise, the Centaurs will turn back to find him and try their best to torture this traitor. But now things have changed. Although the Centaur community has never forgiven Fezzelin for turning to the wizard, the relationship has eased a little now. After all, the current Centaur community has all surrendered to Lin Xiao. But there is still a difference between the two. Fezzelin turned to wizards. The Centaur community took refuge in the Mage. Yes. Is the Sorcerer. In the picture that Marjorie saw, Lin Xiao did not belong to a wizard in the magic world, but a brand new title of Mage. Although they can't figure out why this happens. But this also made other Centaurs in the Centaur community feel less pressure and guilt. It is precisely because of this seemingly identical but not identical situation that the Centaur community allowed Phazran to wander outside the Forbidden Forest, but was not allowed to approach the interior where the Centaur community lived. In general. This also helps Fezzelin deal with some troublesome things. After all, Phazran of course preferred to rest in the Forbidden Forest compared to the dormitory provided by Hogwarts. Although the most important thing is almost settled. But Fezzelin also had other troublesome things entangled in him. That is Umbridge. Umbridge doesn't like magical creatures. In her eyes, magical creatures are low-level creatures, dirty reptiles, and should not appear in the wizarding world. If it is possible. Umbridge even wants the Ministry of Magic to banish all magical creatures to live in the extreme cold. This will make the wizarding world a quieter and cleaner place. It is because of this thinking that Umbridge often finds trouble with Fezzelin. Certainly. And Hagrid's troubles. After all, Hagrid is also a half-blood giant with magical blood, which makes Umbridge hate him too. It's just that Umbridge has yet to find a good, way to expel the two from the school. But Umbridge wasn't in a hurry. Dumbledore could get her out of school. Still bothered by two non-wizard professors? Obviously unlikely. It was just that Dumbledore had just run away, and she didn't want to mess things up too much. Wait until everything is calm. That's when she started actually cleaning things up inside Hogwarts. First of all, she'll have to do it from Phazran and Hagrid. When Lin Xiao came to the outskirts of the Forbidden Forest, he saw Professor Fei Zilan at a glance. Professor Phazlan was also very happy to see Lin Xiao. He walked quickly to Lin Xiao and said, "Oh, dear Lin Xiao, you made me wait for a long time. It looks like you're in a good mood, Fezzelin." Lin Xiao approached, and Fei Zilan was unabashedly delighted. "Is there any good news to tell me?" "Oh dear Lin Xiao, forgive me for not meeting until now, to express my gratitude. You don't know, because of you, I can go back to the Forbidden Forest now." "Really? Have the Centaurs accepted you?" Lin Xiao did not expect that the surrender of the Centaurs would have such unexpected joy. As far as he knew, Fezzelin was not accepted by the Centaurs until the last battle. "Not yet, but now I can sleep peacefully outside the Forbidden Forest. It's all because of you, Lin Xiao, please accept my gratitude." Fezzelin bowed to Lin Xiao. Because of him, the Centaur tribe might be able to avoid a disaster. He was one of the Centaur's best fortune-tellers, and he didn't see the future as clearly as Marjorie did. But he had a hunch. This boy, who would replace Harry as the new destined son, would lead them to defeat Voldemort. "You're welcome. Did you come to me today just to thank me?" "One more thing, Lin Xiao, do you have anything to do with Umbridge?" "This is the real reason why Fei Zilan is looking for Lin Xiao today. Umbridge is targeting me and Hagrid. Lin Xiao, I am worried that Umbridge will attack all magical creatures. She hates all 280 magical creatures appearing where she can see place." Umbridge again. The wicked Professor Dumbledore left, leaving the school in disarray. Now for Fezzelin. Centaurs and giants had already surrendered to him, and he couldn't have watched Umbridge be indifferent to the Centaurs and Hagrid. Rest assured, I'll teach Umbridge a lesson. 35. Lin Xiao already had a plan in mind. Didn't Umbridge dislike the magical creatures such as centaurs, so he let her go to the Horse Crowd tribe to experience how centaurs treat her. "What are you going to do? Need my help?" Lin Xiao's eyes glowed, and Fei Zilan knew that he already had a plan. It's not necessary now, Fezzelin, you can't enter the Centaur community yet. Lin Xiao said. Lin Xiao pondered. Not only must Umbridge get into the Centaur community, but Cornelius Fudge must not suspect that he did it. Cornelius Fudge has always suspected that he is a member of the Dumbledore army, but now there is no evidence, so he has not attacked him. Once found, Cornelius Fudge will not show mercy. It's not a wise choice to go up against Cornelius Fudge now. Okay, I'm waiting for your call. Dear Lin Xiao, the reason why the Centaur community can surrender willingly is because you have given Marjorie hope. I promise you with my blood, as long as you don't abandon the horses, the crowd will not betray you. 35. This is the third thing Fezzelin came to Lin Xiao for. Even if it is not recognized by the community. But that place is still his home, and they are still his clan. He knew that the giant also surrendered to Lin Xiao. Therefore, he needs to make Lin Xiao recognize the loyalty of the centaurs. If the centaur community is willing to surrender, they will never betray again. I never doubt that. Lin Xiao is very aware of the bloodline of centaurs, they consider themselves noble and they won't do anything rebellious. If there's nothing else, I'll go first, and I'll let Umbridge step into your tribe himself, which is a real headache. Lin Xiao said and turned to leave. As soon as he came out of the Forbidden Forest, Lin Xiao saw Luna running over anxiously. Lin Xiao, no, go to the principal's office. Umbridge caught Harry and Ronald, she's going to use the Cruciatus curse on them. What? Is she crazy? Did Cornelius Fudge know she did this? Lin Xiao pulled Luna, drew a circle with his right hand, and went directly to the door of Umbridge's office. Umbridge office. Harry was imprisoned in a chair, Ronald and Hermione were held by two people, unable to move. Umbridge shook the magic wand in his hand. Come on, Harry, where did you guys just want to go? We don't want to go anywhere. It's really tough, I believe, Cruciatus will make you tell the truth. 35 said that the magic wand will be lit. Stop. A screeching sound exploded. Lin Xiao, who suddenly appeared in Umbridge's office, drew a circle with his right hand and pulled Harry to his side, away from Umbridge. Lin Xiao, it's you again. You're here to hurt me again. Umbridge growled. Professor Umbridge, will Cornelius Fudge allow you to do this to students of wizarding schools? Humph, I have a way to keep him from knowing. Umbridge snapped the picture of Cornelius Fudge from the table. Then, turning around and facing Lin Xiao, he said, Lin Xiao, I advise you not to mind your own business, I guess you still don't know what Harry and the others did. Lin Xiao asked Harry softly, what happened? Why did Umbridge arrest you? Harry, please tell Lin Xiao that you were just about to escape from the Academy's fireplace to follow Dumbledore. Umbridge interjected, Lin Xiao, you are not on the list of Dumbledore's army, but if you help Harry today, I just told Secretary Connolly Fudge that you, too, will join the Dumbledore army. Is that so? Harry? Lin Xiao didn't think Harry was leaving to find Dumbledore, he had to report to Professor Snape every day, Harry knew the importance. If you have to leave, it can only be because. That person. Well, I saw some pictures last night, Lin Xiao, I need to go to verify. Harry was in a hurry, his words were full of worry. Lin Xiao recalled that at this time, the only person who could make Harry worry so much was Sirius. 18. Lin Xiao glanced at Umbridge, who was staring at him. Harry, don't forget, you are now affected by Voldemort's soul fragment, and maybe those images were intentionally made for you to see. Even if it was intentional, Sirius is my only relative, Lin Xiao, I can't risk him. The determination in Harry's eyes is rare for Lin Xiao. What are you two talking about, Lin Xiao, are you going with Harry? Umbridge pricked up his ears and couldn't catch what they were saying, and interrupted impatiently. Lin Xiao rolled his eyes and said to Harry. Harry, go ahead and know that if you don't say it, I will. Harry looked at Lin Xiao in disbelief. What? Lin Xiao, are you crazy? Say what, Lin Xiao, are they going to find Dumbledore? Umbridge's eyes were full of excitement and eagerness. The magic wand in his hand was ready. When Lin Xiao said a word, he immediately cast the Cruciatus on him. You don't say now that she won't let you go. Lin Xiao continued to persuade Harry. Lin Xiao, it is absolutely impossible for me to give in. You should die. Harry glanced at Lin Xiao and said firmly. It was such a shame that I had to confess to Professor Umbridge. Speak up, Lin Xiao, I assure you, you are the best student at Hogwarts. Umbridge stared at Lin Xiao closely and said eagerly. Harry, they really want to find Professor Dumbledore. Lin Xiao said calmly, but Harry and Ronald and Hermione were dumbfounded. I don't know what Lin Xiao is talking about. They couldn't understand what Lin Xiao was trying to do for a while. But this time, Hermione had a sudden flash of inspiration. It seemed that he understood what Lin Xiao was thinking. Shut up. Lin Xiao. Hermione stopped him angrily. Lame, muted. Umbridge said to Lin Xiao, no one is interrupting now, you can continue talking, Lin Xiao. 99. But they went to Dumbledore to go to the Forbidden Forest, to find something. What? A magic item that Professor Dumbledore placed in the Forbidden Forest. 35. What magic item? 35. I don't know. Professor Dumbledore once mentioned that there is a magic tool in the Forbidden Forest, but they don't know what the magic tool is and where it is. That's why Harry and Hermione wanted to find Professor Dumbledore. To inquire about the whereabouts of this magic item, and then get this magic item. Umbridge looked at Lin Xiao suspiciously. Oh, Lin Xiao, do you think I would believe your nonsense? How could Dumbledore tell them about magic items, such an important thing, how could McGonagall and Hagrid not know? Because they overheard, when Professor Dumbledore was talking to the ghost, they overheard. Harry looked at Lin Xiao and said seriously. Oh, that's really a bad habit. Umbridge shook his head in disapproval. Children, please recognize the reality. I, Umbridge, the headmaster of Hogwarts, don't like magic items. Please report directly to me in the future. Harry looked at Lin Xiao and Hermione, but didn't speak. Headmaster Umbridge, let me remind you, don't you want that magic item? Only Dumbledore knows where the magic item is. Lin Xiao reminded her. Hey, you don't need to worry about the magic item, I have my own way. Umbridge said, as long as it is in the Forbidden Forest, I will definitely be able to find it. However, since you have made a mistake, you should be punished. Umbridge just waved his magic wand at Harry. Lin Xiao interrupted her, Headmaster Umbridge, you'd better not do it, otherwise, I may make you never find that magic item. Okay, Lin Xiao, for the sake of you telling me such important news, I'll let them go today. Umbridge took the magic wand, but you have to be optimistic about them, and let them never make mistakes again. Next time, I will definitely follow the school rules and kick them all out of school. 55. Okay, I'm going to the Forbidden Forest now to find that mysterious magic tool, I hope it's an artifact that can shock the entire magic world, wish me luck. Saying Umbridge's spell, he disappeared into the office. Lin Xiao, how do you know there are magic items in the Forbidden Forest? Harry stepped forward and asked, Headmaster Dumbledore never said that. I do not know. You lied to them. If Umbridge comes back from the Forbidden Forest and finds nothing, she won't let us go. 35 Ronald is surprised that Lin Xiao can create such a low-end deception. Don't worry, she must not be in the mood to blame me for this little lie when she comes back. While entanglement with Umbridge, Lin Xiao had quietly sent the clone to the Forbidden Forest Centaur, telling them that Umbridge would disturb them. 0. He believed that the Centaur community would take good care of this filthy bloodline in their opinion. Forbidden Forest here. After Umbridge entered the Forbidden Forest, he first went to Hagrid's house. Hagrid, tell me what magic item Dumbledore kept in the Forbidden Forest. If you don't want to be banished from Hogwarts, you'd better tell me. Hagrid was feeding his dog meat in the house, and was inexplicable when he saw Umbridge rushing in aggressively. What magic item? How could Dumbledore leave a magic item in the Forbidden Forest? Are you crazy, Umbridge? Don't play stupid with me. You are Dumbledore's most loyal believer, how could Dumbledore not tell you such an important secret? Umbridge looked at Hagrid like trash, as if his presence had dirtied her eyes. Well, if you think there's a magic item here, you can find it yourself. If you find it, you can kick me out of school. Hagrid saw Umbridge's naked disgust, didn't bother with her, and followed her words. You. Hagrid's attitude made Umbridge angrier. When I find the magic item, I'll make you get out of school. No, get out of the wizarding world. You magical creatures, you shouldn't be in front of me. With that, he left Hagrid's shabby hut angrily. 0. Flowers. Looking at Umbridge's back, Hagrid shook his head, this school is really getting worse and worse. Umbridge came out of Hagrid's hut and walked non-stop in the Forbidden Forest. Dan Dumbledore, where did you hide the magic item? Umbridge searched for a long time in the Forbidden Forest, but did not even see the shadow of the magic item. The Forbidden Forest was overgrown with trees and weeds, and it was impossible to see the road underfoot. Umbridge was in a state of embarrassment when he tripped over a branch that had risen inexplicably on the road. Umbridge couldn't help shouting as he slammed into a tree trunk that had grown out of nowhere and fell into a pit, his nose bruised and his face bruised. Who? I'm Umbridge, headmaster of Hogwarts, do you know what's going to happen if you offend me? Get me out. 35, 0. Umbridge looked up, and a group of centaurs appeared around the pit. Dirty bloodline, inferior species, how dare you appear in our domain? Get out of here. Marjorie looked at her condescendingly. Presumptuous. You magical creatures, the species that should exist in the extremely cold exile, dare to speak to me like this. Umbridge never imagined that one day, he would be looked down upon by a group of magical creatures condescendingly. He was so insulted that he suddenly trembled with anger. Believe it or not, tomorrow I will let you all get out of the Forbidden Forest and drive you to that extremely cold place of exile. As soon as the voice fell, 2 centaurs quickly descended from above, one of them carried Umbridge up and threw them on the ground. You damn magical creatures, how dare you treat me like this? Humph, I thought who it was, but the filthiest of the filthy races. Marjorie looked at Umbridge with contempt, and thought that it was indeed that traitor, Phasren, who was teaching in a school for such people. It's just trampling on their bloodline, and what's more damn it, because of Lin Zhao's relationship, they can't completely eliminate this traitor. Marjorie unleashed all his anger and resentment on Umbridge. I'll let you know, what are the consequences of trespassing on our territory? After Umbridge left, Lin Zhao came out of his office. Harry, there's one more thing you need to figure out before you try to save Sirius. 35. Lin Zhao remembered that Harry saw the picture of Sirius being captured, and flew to London desperately, only to fall into a trap, and later Sirius was killed in order to save him. What? Harry asked impatiently. You need to distinguish between what is real and what is fake in what you see. If what you see is all Voldemort made you see, if it's just to attract you, what will you do then? Harry obviously couldn't listen to Lin Zhao's words, and he seemed restless, pacing back and forth. Lin Zhao, you don't understand my mood at all, you must know that Sirius is my only relative, I dare not take him on a risk. As far as 280 is a trap, I'm going to. Looking at Harry's obviously impatient figure, Lin Zhao finally understood why Dumbledore asked him to guard them and Harry Potter before he left. Harry Potter now has no ability to resist Voldemort at all. Completely immature mind, such Harry Potter did not need Voldemort to shoot at all. Harry, calm down, even if Sirius is captured, we have to plan to save him. Luna walked up to Harry and said, Lin Zhao is right, we should also think about if it is a trap, we will what should be done. No, I'll go alone this time. Harry Potter knew the dangers of this trip, he had to save Sirius, but he couldn't let the group of friends put him in a dangerous situation. Harry, you forgot, we're a team, we're all Dumbledore troops. You don't have to do everything alone. Hermione disagreed with Harry's decision. Harry looked into the distance and said with some loneliness, I want to do something well, but in the end, I find that everything is so bad, and I always screw things up. 35. Harry, don't do this. Hermione and Ronald didn't want to see Harry like this. Did you screw it up? What did you screw up? Lin Zhao walked over and said, Headmaster Dumbledore didn't leave because of the Dumbledore army, it was just an excuse for Umbridge and Cornelius Fudge to overthrow Dumbledore, and also with you, the pictures you see. Harry, it's not your fault, you don't need to force it on you, you've done a great job. Lin Zhao looked at Harry and said, as the destined son, Harry has done a good job, it would be better if he could calm down at this time. Harry looked at Lin Zhao in surprise. Since Lin Zhao came to school, he often felt a sense of frustration. He felt that Dumbledore treated him differently from Lin Zhao. Professor Dumbledore was a teacher and an elder to him, and he was a kind of caring for him, expecting him to grow up and lead the Academy of Magic to defeat Voldemort. But Dumbledore's attitude towards Lin Zhao is not, he treats Lin Zhao on an equal footing with him, so he will trust Lin Zhao, this kind of trust and ability he does not have. What frustrates him even more is that he doesn't know how to bridge this gap. Lin Zhao didn't know Harry's thoughts. If he knew, he would probably have laughed it off. He was different from Harry. He was a bug. He came to this world with his own mission. His mission was completely different from Harry's mission. So what should we do now? Luna asked, seeing that Harry was no longer impulsive. Harry also looked at Lin Zhao, who seemed to have become the backbone of this small group. Lin Zhao knew that the trip to London was a must. After all, Harry's prophecy ball was still there. The prophecy ball was broken when Harry and the others were fighting, and now he still needs to get it back. However, what to do after he goes, he still needs a plan. Harry, I can assure you that Sirius will be all right. Now, you should go to Professor Snape, don't forget, this is also very important. When Hermione and Luna heard Lin Zhao say this, they looked at each other and looked at Lin Zhao again. Harry was hesitant to hear this, but nodded and walked towards Snape's office. Ronald left after Harry left, in Umbridge's office, but he was taken aback. Only Luna, Hermione, and Lin Zhao were left. Hermione asked, Lin Zhao, are you planning to go to London by yourself? 55. How is it possible? How can I take risks in such a dangerous place? Don't worry. 5. You promise? Luna asked along with him. Hey, Luna, even if Hermione doesn't believe me, how can you not believe me? Don't worry, I'll tell you if I go. I promise. I just don't know when to tell. Lin Xiao did have this plan. After all, the prophecy ball and Sirius would still be brought back. And he went alone, but he didn't have to be timid. Others don't know where the prediction ball is, but he does. Voldemort had his eye on him, and he would do anything that would sabotage Voldemort's plans. It's just that these two little girls can't know that Luna is okay, and once Hermione knows his plan, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to let him go. Okay, trust you for now. Hermione yawned. It's been a long day, I need to rest now, I'm going back first. After saying that, Hermione gave Luna a meaningful look and left. Is there anything else? Lin Xiao asked Luna. Lin Xiao, Umbridge, how is she? Luna never forgot that Umbridge was still looking for the magic item left by Dumbledore in the Forbidden Forest, and he still hasn't come back. Don't worry, she should be jumping in anger in the Centaur community now. Luna hesitated, but Lin Xiao knew at a glance what she was thinking. She was afraid that Umbridge would trouble him after he came out of the Forbidden Forest. Lin Xiao lightly touched Luna's head. Leave everything to me, eh? Luna blushed slightly, nodded slightly, and then turned to leave. Fortunately, Luna reminded me that I have to speak to Marjorie and let Umbridge stay with him for a while longer, at least until I get back. Forbidden Forest, Centaur territory. As soon as Marjorie saw Lin Xiao, why are you here? How about Umbridge? Lin Xiao didn't see Umbridge's figure. That filthy kind is being held by me now, are you here to find her back? No, I'm here to tell you, I'm leaving the Magic Academy for a while tonight, and before I come back, trap her here and don't let her go back to school. Don't worry, I promise she won't leave the Forbidden Forest before she receives the order. After everything was settled, Lin Xiao returned to his room and was ready to go to London. When Harry Potter and the others went to London, they flew to the Department of Mysteries in London with the help of Hermione, who was good at flying and was very good at finding places the writer wanted to go to. Although he has a ring, he can take him directly to the Department of Mystery Affairs, but he does not know the specific location of the Department of Mystery Affairs, so it is useless even if he has a ring. He came to the Forbidden Forest and did not find Hagrid. But the Night fed by Hagrid was there. Lin Xiao grabbed the edge of a Knight Rider, stomped on the tree trunk beside him, and sat on it. Yi Chi did not reject Lin Xiao, but just turned his head to look at him, showing his sharp teeth. Lin Xiao patted its head and said softly, "Take me to London, the Ministry of Magic, the visitor reception." Lin Xiao remembered that Harry should have gone to this place. When Yi Chi heard Lin Xiao's words, he didn't fly right away. Lin Xiao thought he didn't understand and was about to say it again. With a sudden movement of his two wings, he stretched out and almost fell him. Its head slowly dipped. Then he rushed upwards and flew into the sky. With such a fast speed, Lin Xiao had to hold on to its bones to prevent it from slipping off his back. Lin Xiao couldn't open his eyes due to the impact of the strong air current. He closed his eyes tightly, feeling the night riding up and down in the air. Lin Xiao felt that Yi Chi had led him over the mountains and swooped down again. Lin Xiao felt the pleasure of flying fast in the air. They were flying in the dark. Because of the super high speed, their faces were frozen a little stiff. There is saliva flowing out. Suddenly, Lin Xiao felt a whirl, and Yi Chi suddenly began to charge down, following the direction of its neck, and finally stopped on a street. At this time, it was still dark and the streets were empty. After Lin Xiao got off Yi Chi's body, he saw a telephone cord, patted Yi Chi's head, and walked towards the phone booth. Lin Xiao approached the phone booth and dialed the number he knew. After a while, a cold voice came from the phone. "Welcome to the Ministry of Magic, please state your name and cause." Lin Xiao said slowly, "I'm here to find someone and a thing, if you can help me find this person and that thing, I don't need to go in." "Thank you, please put your good badge on the front of your clothes." The cold woman said so. A badge slipped out, and Lin Xiao took it. "Dear guest, you need to be investigated, please bring your magic wand to the security desk to register." 39. Lin Xiao nodded. The floor where the phone was listening suddenly shook, a glass rose up from the ground, and a strong light hit his feet. He looked in the direction of the light. The inside of the light was pitch black. Lin Xiao wanted to see if there was anyone inside, but nothing was seen. "Have a nice night." The woman's cold voice came. After the elevator door opened, Lin Xiao got off the elevator and saw another elevator. Lin Xiao did not hesitate, walked directly to the elevator, and pressed a button. Lin Xiao knew that there were no security guards here, but he didn't need to use a wand, nor was he worried. Lin Xiao walked along the elevator to the dark space, including the ceiling and windows, which were all black. It's the most annoying color. There was only a little blue light from the candle, and this light followed Lin Xiao in, and after the door closed automatically, it disappeared. Lin Xiao was calm, he had long known who would be here, and what would be waiting for him here. He walked along the corridor, passed through the door at the end of the corridor, followed this door, walked through a dark room, walked out of this room, passed through another door, and finally entered a room that was flickering with light. In this room, except for some glass bottles, there is nothing in them, and the glass bottles are filled with a white object that shakes gently in the bottle. Here is the brain. Lin Xiao didn't stop here, went out from this room, walked to the original circular dark room, went straight to the door that was opened last, and Lin Xiao walked in directly. This room was bigger than the previous one, dimly lit, rectangular, and the middle of the house sank. The stone benches sank steeply in rows along the shape of the room, like an amphitheater. There was no wall to support it, and the arch hung a tattered curtain, which fluttered slightly in the cold and completely still air, as if it had just been moved. Lin Xiao watched the curtain float slightly, and said slowly, "Who's there? Come out, I know you're not serious. But I'm also disappointed Harry Potter didn't come, only me, Lin Xiao, came here." The curtain moved, but no one came out. "Don't talk. That's fine." Lin Xiao walked straight out of this room, and when he came out of this room, Lin Xiao felt the earth shake, and after standing firm, he saw a starlit room. Lin Xiao closed his eyes for a while to get used to the dazzling light. After opening his eyes, Lin Xiao smiled and finally found the right direction. This room is full of bookshelves, and the bookshelves are full of things. Lin Xiao walked through the rows of bookshelves, walked to a big bell jar, passed through the big bell jar, and saw a door. "It's here." Lin Xiao pushed open the door and went in, and saw a church as tall and empty, with only some towering shelves. It was full of small glass balls with dust on it. They flickered faintly 280 in the light of the many candles laid out along the shelves, the flames of which burned blue, as in the circular room behind them. Lin Xiao said to the air, "Not coming out yet? Then I'll go get the prophecy ball." Lin Xiao walked along the shelf. Harry's prediction ball was in row 97, number 54, and finally found Harry's name in the prediction ball. Lin Xiao stopped under Harry's prophecy ball and felt a wave in the air. Lin Xiao knew that those people had arrived. They were also staring in the dark. Lin Xiao placed his left hand on the prophecy ball and drew a circle with his right hand. The entire shelf containing the prophecy ball fell from its original place and appeared on Lin Xiao's right hand. Give me the stuff." As soon as Lin Xiao got the prophecy ball, a ghostly figure appeared beside him, so close that Lin Xiao could feel his breath. "Really, it's just now, and you stay away from me, I don't want to feel your breath." Lin Xiao turned around. Behind him, there were 12 figures in black robes, and 12 magic wands were facing him at the same time. Lin Xiao looked at the 12 magic wands calmly, not taking them to heart at all. "Why, doesn't Voldemort dare to come by himself? How dare you call Lord Black Magic by his name? A Death Eater couldn't believe it, you lowly muggle." "Muggleborn?" Lin Xiao said, "Why, don't you know that your Dark Lord, Voldemort, also has half Muggle blood?" "Shut up." Bellatrix Lestland rushed forward angrily, "How dare you disrespect Lord Black Magic?" Lin Xiao made a circle with his right hand and moved to their rear. "I said, don't get so close to me, I don't want to feel your breath." 35. Lin Xiao raised the prophecy ball in his hand high. "Don't be in such a hurry, since we're all here anyway, you don't want to know, why do I know so clearly about the game you set up for Harry? You don't want to know, why do I know you're here?" Bellatrix Lestland didn't want to listen to his nonsense, and took off his huge hat, revealing that angry somewhat twisted face. Just as he was about to wave his magic wand, he was stopped by Lin Xiao. "Hey, I already told you not to act rashly, what if I accidentally lose the prophecy ball?" Lin Xiao said with a chuckle, "If the prophecy ball is dropped, your Black Magic Lord may not be happy." "Bar. How did you know?" Lysha stopped the impulsive Bellatrix Lestland. Master Dark Magic expected everything, only Harry knew about this place, and even if he told you, he wouldn't should have known so clearly. "What is this prophecy? I know far more than you think." Lin Xiao looked at Lesterland. "At least, I know that Sirius is here." 39. "Ha ha ha ha," laughed Lucius and Bellatrix Lestland, "still can't tell the difference between dream and reality. That fool, Harry Potter, just had a dream and thought it was real." Lin Xiao didn't care, just gave a signal to Sirius that he knew he was here. "How did you become so familiar with this place? And how did you know that prophecy?" Malfoy's biggest puzzlement was this: Dumbledore shouldn't tell you these things, how did you know? "Humph, as I said, I know a lot more than you think." Lin Xiao is making a fool of himself, he can't tell them, I'm sorry, I've seen the scene of your fight with Harry and all your arrangements after that, I've seen it dozens of times. If he said that, either Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestland regarded him as a lunatic, or he was caught by them to study the brain, Lin Xiao felt that he should keep a low profile. Then why do you get someone else's prophecy? Asked Bellatrix Lestland, the only people who can get the prophecy are those who are mentioned in the prophecy, why can you get it? It's very simple. Lin Xiao looked at the prophecy ball in his hand. Originally, he never thought that he could actually get the prophecy ball. Lin Xiao knew that Voldemort wanted to prophesy the ball, and he just had to let him not get it. As for the secret of prophecy, he already knew it anyway. Simple what? Lucius asked. Because, the prophecy has changed, don't you know? Now it's not just about Voldemort and Harry, but also me. Lin Xiao turned the prophecy ball in his hand, this prophecy ball should now have 3 names, Voldemort, Harry, Lin Xiao. You are not allowed to call him by his first name, and your dirty tongue is not allowed to utter those words. Bellatrix Lestland was furious. Lin Xiao shrugged, now let's talk about why your great Dark Lord doesn't get the ball himself. As soon as Lucius was about to speak, Lin Xiao interrupted him, you don't have to say it, I guess you will say it's because the Ministry of Magic is so ignorant of his resurrection now that the Aeolos are taking their time to arrest your cousin. At times, the Dark Lord will be exposed, that is, to send himself to the door. This is a choice made only by a diseased mind, right? Humph, you are still a little smart. Lucius said coldly. Ha ha ha, you're so smart, you're just timid and afraid of death, hiding behind you dirty mice and not daring to come out. Lin Xiao was full of disdain, if you don't dare to come out, let you do these dirty things for him. Deeds. You. Bellatrix Lestland raised his magic wand, I'm going to kill you. You're very good, Lin Xiao, Lucius said with the same vicious expression, today we'll kill you for the Dark Lord first. Smash to pieces. Lin Xiao transferred directly, then swapped out 12 clones to face the 12 Death Eaters. Lin Xiao hid himself in the dark, and Sirius hadn't shown up until now. Now that he's here, he has to take Sirius back no matter what. Lin Xiao heard Mars roar, Bellatrix Lestland, don't worry about the fake, I said don't worry about the fake, dealing with this muggle is nothing compared to losing that prophecy ball, we have to get the prophecy ball first, we have to focus. Lin Xiao held the prophecy ball and ran towards the round door quietly, Sirius, come out quickly, we'll go back when you come out. Damn Muggleborn, what kind of magic is this, and which one is real? Bellatrix Lestland was helpless with the Lin Xiao in front of her. Lin Xiao doesn't use magic wands or spells, as long as what's on his mind will be displayed immediately. Bellatrix Lestland and Mars are unprepared, they have no way to determine when Lin Xiao uses magic and what to use. Magic is always passive. On the contrary, they used a crucifixion and a bone-shattering incantation for a while. Before they finished reciting the incantation, Lin Xiao had already made a counterattack. It was the first time for Bellatrix Lestland and others to face such magic. They had absolutely nothing to do with Lin Xiao, and originally there was only one Lin Xiao, 12 of them, who had paid for it, and the chance of victory was in their hands. Did not expect. Lin Xiao was able to separate 12 clones, and each clone could use magic independently. They had never seen such a powerful force in the Dark Lord. Lin Xiao didn't do anything, but when he knew that they had chanted the spell, the magic returned directly, and Bellatrix Lestland and Mars would be devoured by their own magic. Over and over again, the 12 Death Eaters appeared to be in disarray. Lin Xiao looked at them and saw that Sirius was not ready to show up, so he shouted to the sky, Sirius, if you don't come out, you won't be able to see Harry. How did you know I was here? Would you believe it if I said that I had a heart with you? Lin Xiao said while dodging the Death Eaters who suddenly rushed in front of him. Then should I say, is it my pleasure? Sirius charged down with possession and directly fought with Lesterland. Lin Xiao saw that Sirius avoided Lesterland's red light, and then looked at her mockingly. It's just that Sirius didn't pay attention, and there was a red light behind him, just running towards his back. Lin Xiao teleported over and pushed Sirius away. Check it out, okay? I'm here to find you, not to see you die. Lin Xiao looked at Sirius angrily, if I didn't bring you back, Harry should blame me. Sorry, thank you for your help. Sirius looked cynical. However, Lesterland can't let it go. Sirius's eyes became fierce, Neville's parents, but they are all in her hands. Hearing this, Lesterland let out a triumphant cheer, oh, I remember the way they collapsed before. 99. Her eyes were full of excitement, as if she remembered the scene at that time. Lin Xiao, give me the prophecy ball, or I'd love to see how long you can hold on before you collapse like them. Just you. Lin Xiao looked at 280 Lesterland disdainfully. Unfortunately, Lesterland, I didn't have any plans to kill today, but now I promise you, you will never see your noble Dark Lord. Lesterland looked at Lin Xiao disdainfully. Come on. Let me see your abilities. Lesterland turned his head and cast a spell. The pool rose into the air, blocking Lin Xiao, and she took the opportunity to fly over. Lin Xiao turned slightly to avoid the pool, and ran after Lesterland again. Lesterland turned his head and cast a spell. Lin Xiao instantly hid behind the clone and disappeared from Lesterland's sight. Inside. Lin Xiao, come out, don't you say that you are very powerful? Her voice surrounded the darkness. Lin Xiao, I know what you are for, you are avenging my dear cousin, right? Yes, that's right. Lin Xiao suddenly appeared behind her. You should be thankful that I didn't bring Neville here today. I don't think he would mind. I avenge his parents. As soon as the words fell, Lesterland screamed. Lin Xiao used Cruciatus on her, but the spell didn't make her twitch in pain, she was just panting, no longer smiling weirdly. Lin Xiao, you did it on purpose, you wanted to cause me pain, you wanted me to be like my dear cousin, useless, this kind of spell can't hurt me. Lesterland shouted, I am the Dark Lord's most loyal subordinate, and the magic I learned from him has an incomparably powerful power, a power that you, a Muggleborn, will never be able to compete with. Lin Xiao stood in front of her, really? But have I told you that my power is something that your Dark Lord will never be able to reach, he can't compete with my power, let alone you, 35. Really? Mars appeared behind Lin Xiao, I'll give you one more chance, give me the prophecy ball, give him to me, and I'll let you live. You are only one person now, yes, impossible against the two of us. I guess Dumbledore taught you math. Lin Xiao turned the prophecy ball in his hand, the ball was swaying in his hand, and there was a risk of falling at any time. Mars and Lesterland stared nervously at the ball, ready to rush to guard it when it fell. However, Lin Xiao was faster than them, with a little force, palms down, prophesied that the ball shattered in front of them. What now? It's broken. Lin Xiao looked at Lesterland, whose eyes became crazy, and said, Your noble Voldemort, until it's broken, what will it do to you? Lin Xiao. Lesterland screamed frantically. But Lin Xiao clearly heard the fear in her screams. No. Lesterland waved the magic wand in his hand continuously, the prophecy ball is coming. The prophecy ball is coming. Seeing Lesterland's crazy appearance, Sirius suddenly burst out laughing. Sirius was laughing hotly with the Death Eaters over there. He was like a born warrior, ready to join the battle with passion anytime, anywhere. Go back and tell your master that there's nothing here, the prophecy ball broke. No one will know what it said, but whatever she says, it doesn't matter to me. No, screamed Lesterland and Mars. It's not true. We tried our best. Just go back like this, report to your master, and say that the prophecy ball is broken. Sirius laughed. Really? Is that so? Said a gloomy voice. Sirius and Lin Xiao turned their heads and looked back, a tall and thin man shrouded in black robes, only showing a pale and bloodless face, with scarlet eyes looking at them. Voldemort appeared in this dark hall, the wand in his hand was motionless and aimed at Lin Xiao and Sirius. At this time, at Hogwarts school, Luna and Hermione couldn't find Lin Xiao anywhere, so they guessed that Lin Xiao went to the mysterious office alone, and called Harry Potter, Neville, Ronald and others to find a way. How can Lin Xiao do this? Luna said worriedly, he clearly said that he would not go alone. What's the use of talking about this now? Harry felt the pain in his head getting worse, and said with restraint, the most important thing now is that we find a way to get to the mystery office. But we don't even know where the mystery agency is, how are we supposed to get there? Ronald asked. Night rides, Hagrid's night rides, Hermione said eagerly, they're going to find where people want to go. Then let's go immediately, Lin Xiao doesn't know what will happen to him alone. Luna said anxiously, bless him, never encounter dangerous things. Just as they were about to leave, the pain in Harry Potter's head suddenly intensified, so much so that he thought his head would split. Ah, it hurts, it hurts. Harry covered his head and crouched on the ground in pain. Harry. Ronald and Hermione stepped forward worriedly, trying to touch the scar on his forehead, but he pushed them away. Harry, what's the matter with you? It's Voldemort's signal. He seems to be coming out. What? Ronald, Neville, Hermione, Luna all looked at him in disbelief, they couldn't believe it, what did they just hear? Mystery office. So, you broke my prophecy ball. Voldemort spoke softly, but his icy eyes stared at Lin Xiao tightly. You're finally willing to come out. Lin Xiao looked at those eyes without evading. I thought you would always hide in other people's minds, or behind your subordinates. Are you making a case for Harry Potter? But you're right, I did see some worthless pictures through his worthless brain. These months of preparation, months of hard work. Voldemort looked at Lei, who was lying on the ground. Stellan's voice became even colder. However, my Death Eaters, let you stop me again, and... This time, Harry Potter didn't even show up. 35. Master, I'm sorry, I really don't know, Lesterland whimpered, climbing up to Voldemort's feet as he spoke. Master, you know, I've been trying my best. Master, it's all Lin Xiao, he's too cunning. Lucius Malfoy also ran over and said, he broke the prophecy ball on purpose. Sorry, Master. Shut up. Lucius Malfoy, Lesterland, do you think I'm taking such a big risk to come to the Ministry of Magic to hear your apology? Voldemort looked at them like an ant dash. I'll deal with you, but not now. Voldemort turned to look at Lin Xiao. Then this is really an accident, I should be worth your special trip out of that filthy sewer. Lin Xiao smiled arrogantly and boldly. Lin Xiao, I have nothing to say to you. 33 Voldemort said quietly, your existence makes me feel dangerous, and I hate such existence, both you and Harry Potter. Avada Kedavra. 99. At the moment when Voldemort uttered the spell, Lin Xiao had already pulled Sirius, who was still in a daze, and left the place. Lin Xiao is still in the mood to tease him. Didn't you always say that you want to defeat Voldemort? Now that you are in front of you, what about your high fighting desire? Shut up, Lin Xiao. The moment Sirius appeared in Voldemort, his mind went blank, his magic wand was pointlessly pointing to the ground. Voldemort, who should have been sleeping in the ground, suddenly appeared in front of him, and now, he has to fight Voldemort, just him and Lin Xiao. What a crazy thing this is. Don't be so impatient, Lin Xiao said lightly to him as he led him to avoid Voldemort's magic one after another. I promised Harry that you will be fine. Lin Xiao, listen to me, I'll stop him in a while, take this opportunity to run out immediately, go to Dumbledore, go to all the people you can find, leave me alone. Sirius gradually recovered his mind and slowly began to join the battle. Accept your weapons. It just doesn't work. It doesn't hurt Voldemort in the slightest. When he was devastated, a wooden horse seat in the room suddenly came alive, jumped up from his base, and fell between Lin Xiao, Sirius and Voldemort. The horse stretched its wings, protecting Lin Xiao and Sirius at the time. A light flashed after a spell, just passed through its chest. What? Voldemort looked around suspiciously, then turned to look behind him, and Sirius clearly heard him take a sharp breath. Dumbledore. Lin Xiao crossed Voldemort and saw a figure. Dumbledore was standing in front of the door, the candles behind the door cast his slender figure. Just then, Voldemort raised his magic wand, and a red light shot at Dumbledore. Dumbledore shook his body. Lin Xiao only had time to see the figure with the cloak unfolding, and after that, Dumbledore disappeared. At this time, Lin Xiao suddenly remembered that he had been patronizing the battle just now, completely forgetting that he had a more advanced cloak. He patted his forehead regretfully. It's all because of Voldemort's appearance, it's too high. 99. Sirius looked at him puzzled. Over there, Voldemort was still looking for Dumbledore, his magic wand up, down, left, right, back in constant streaks of red, sometimes green, but Dumbledore didn't show up. As he stopped, for a split second, Dumbledore appeared behind Voldemort, and at the same time, his magic wand was pointed at another Trojan horse, and the remaining one came alive. The Trojan galloped towards Voldemort, but he disappeared. The magic wands in the hands of Lesterland and Lucius Malfoy were aimed at Lin Xiao and Sirius. Lin Xiao twirled his cloak, disappeared in front of them, and reappeared behind them in an instant. 0. Flowers. The Cruciatus. 35. Sirius's magic wand was aimed at Lesterland, and Lesterland screamed, and launched a spell that did nothing in the direction of the two of them. The moment she said the spell, Lin Xiao had appeared behind her with Sirius. End the battle as soon as possible. Dumbledore did not find Voldemort's figure, tightly holding the magic wand in his hand, said to Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao shook his head. Then there's no other way, Lesterland, you can see your noble Dark Lord again before you die, and you shouldn't have any regrets. No. Lesterland looked at Lin Xiao with fear in his eyes. No. Master, save. 0. Lin Xiao didn't wait for Lesterland to finish speaking, and flew over at the fastest speed. At the same time, the horn on the Trojan horse's head directly penetrated Lesterland's chest. Lesterland looked at the corner of her body in shock, blood running down the corner of her mouth. She didn't even have time to say anything. She looked around in a daze, but didn't see the one she wanted to see figure. Then, she smiled sadly. Her body fell to the ground in a daze, her eyes always staring in front of her. Is she expecting Voldemort to come out to save her? Little Uranus walked over to her and looked in the direction of her eyes, but there was nothing. Lucius Malfoy looked at Leslie's fall, and there was only panic in his eyes. He looked around anxiously. Master. Help me. Dumbledore was always watching his side vigilantly. Suddenly, Voldemort's head appeared behind Lin Xiao's ear, and it was too late for Lin Xiao to react. A headless Trojan pushed Lin Xiao and Sirius, and Voldemort's spell completely shattered the Trojan. At the same time, Dumbledore walked towards Voldemort, with the Trojan horse behind him. It's so stupid to be here today, Dumbledore said quietly. The Aurors are on their way here. Before they came, I was gone, and you, and this kid behind you, you were already dead. Voldemort growled, and he fired another shot at Dumbledore. Avalon killed, but missed. But it hit the wooden frame behind Dumbledore, and the frame caught fire. Dumbledore suddenly swayed his magic wand, and Lin Xiao had never seen it before. But when the spell passed, the power he exuded was so great that even Lin Xiao and Sirius, who were far away from the battlefield, were terrified. Voldemort also wielded a magic wand, with several spells in front of him, forming a golden barrier to block it. No matter what Dumbledore's 280 Leto spell was, it was clear that he did not cause any obvious damage to Voldemort's barrier, just heard the sound of the barrier breaking in front of him, a strange, somewhat trembling sound. The sound of... It's not a death curse, Dumbledore. Voldemort's scarlet eyes narrowed. You meant to grab me and torture me, didn't you? We all know that I won't curse you easily, Tom Marvolo Riddle. Dumbledore said calmly, walking towards Voldemort step by step, as if the world's most terrifying man was in front of him. His students were no different, as if nothing could stop him. But I must admit, Tom Marvolo Riddle, for you, just taking your life will not satisfy me. Dumbledore approached Voldemort step by step. Dumbledore, you've never been in the dark. If you've been in the dark for so many years, like me, you'll find that there's nothing worse in this world than death. Not knowing what Dumbledore said, Voldemort suddenly became irritated and snarled at Dumbledore. Don't you know, there's nothing scarier than death, and that sentence is your eternal weakness. Dumbledore was still walking towards Voldemort, slowly, as if they were just at the headmaster's office at Hogwarts at the moment, chatting with tea, discussing issues is the same. Lin Xiao looked at Dumbledore, and walked forward regardless, frowning to stop him. But Sirius stopped him. Trust Dumbledore. Death is the easiest thing in this world, and it's harder to survive. Dumbledore looked at Voldemort like those students at school who made mistakes. Tom, unfortunately, you still don't understand this truth. Therefore, I am not satisfied with just taking your life. 5. I want you to realize that for some people, living is worse than dying. 35. A red light suddenly flew out from behind the barrier, rushed in front of Dumbledore, and disappeared before it got close to Dumbledore. Dumbledore pulled out his magic wand and waved it. When the magic wand pointed at Voldemort, a fiery red flame flew out from the magic wand and went straight to Voldemort, but the flame did not hit Voldemort's body. It was still strong and Voldemort and him were almost broken. Barrier surrounded. Sirius looked at Dumbledore in surprise. What kind of magic is this? It looks so advanced. Lin Xiao couldn't believe it. Is Voldemort just caught? At this time, they all felt that Dumbledore seemed to have won. But then, the red flame suddenly turned into a red snake, broke away from Voldemort's surroundings, and headed straight for Dumbledore, the red snake hissing. The caller let out a chill from the bottom of his heart. Voldemort disappeared, and the red snake attacked from the ground. Voldemort appeared above Dumbledore, but Dumbledore was still entangled with the red snake. Watch out. Lin Xiao let go of Sirius and joined the fight. He rushed over Dumbledore, stopped another red snake, and smashed it directly. The moment the snake shattered, an explosion sounded. Voldemort disappeared again where he had just appeared. Lin Xiao flew in the air and looked down. Voldemort was standing in the center of the entire room, where the original Trojan horse stood. Without any hesitation, Lin Xiao rushed over with the fastest speed. This time, a green snake flew out of Voldemort's magic wand and ran towards Dumbledore, while the red snake attacked with it. Lin Xiao suddenly flew in front of Dumbledore and smashed the green snake again. At the same time, Dumbledore skillfully swung her magic wand, the red snake, and almost stuck the venomous teeth into Dumbledore's body. When the Dumbledore spell flew out, the red snake flew high in the air, eventually turning into pieces, and after a huge explosion, only a plume of black smoke remained. Disappeared into the air. At this time, a wall of water suddenly appeared around Voldemort, covering Voldemort completely. Lin Xiao looked at the picture in surprise and asked Dumbledore, "What kind of magic is this?" Dumbledore smiled faintly, without explanation. They saw Voldemort keep rushing towards the water wall, trying to push the water wall away, but in vain. After Voldemort also found it useless, he returned to the center of the water wall. Master, screamed Lucius Malfoy. Obviously, they all saw Voldemort's plans, and he was about to run away. Stop it. Tom Marvolo Riddle. Dumbledore's voice became a little frightened for the first time. Lin Xiao and Sirius didn't understand why, and now it was only them and Voldemort, and the lingering Lucius Malfoy, and Voldemort was still being controlled in the water wall. Huh, Dumbledore, if death is nothing, let this child die. Lin Xiao and Sirius' faces changed suddenly. It was Harry. Hogwarts School. Harry has been holding on to the scar in pain, but the scar on his head gradually opened in 1. 3. For the first time, Harry felt that death was such a pain, unimaginable pain, unbearable pain. He watched his figure appear in a black hall, and he screamed in pain. Stop it. Tom Marvolo Riddle. Harry heard Dumbledore's voice and, fighting the pain, opened his eyes and saw himself surrounded by a man with scarlet eyes. The man seemed to be a snake, coiled tightly around him, and their connection was so close that Harry couldn't tell whether it was his hallucination or reality. Harry didn't know where his body was at all, he only felt that he and Voldemort were one, especially painfully connected. Harry pulled hard, but the pain became more and more painful, and he gradually felt that his body consciousness was no longer his own, and he couldn't escape if he wanted to. Harry felt his mouth move, but it wasn't himself speaking. Dumbledore, kill me. Dumbledore, if you don't think death is particularly bad, then kill this child. Harry could hear his own voice, and the pain in his body made him feel that if death could stop the pain, let him kill me. Harry resisted, speaking to Dumbledore in his own mind, Dumbledore, kill me. Let me end this pain. Death is nothing compared to this. As soon as he finished speaking, Harry felt that his body was not his own again. For every moment of the tug, Harry was thinking about death. Suddenly, he felt that the pulling feeling disappeared, the force that had been entangled with him, let him go. The pain disappeared as well, and Harry felt his body return to the ground. When I opened my eyes, I was still at Hogwarts, Ronald, Hermione, Luna, all around me. As if nothing happened. Harry shivered violently, as if all that had happened was just an illusion. Harry? What's the matter with you? Are you all right? Harry. Harry gasped violently, yes, I'm fine. What just happened? Why did you suddenly pass out? Was it Voldemort? 35. Hermione asked worriedly. Yes, I just saw him, he really appeared. Harry recalled the scene just now, I saw Lin Xiao, Dumbledore, and Sirius just now, but I don't know where they are. No, they're in the Department of Mysteries. Harry shook his head again, but why is Voldemort there? Hermione, Luna and Ronald, looking at each other, didn't quite understand what Harry was talking about. They all looked at him with worried eyes, they didn't know what Harry went through just now. Department of Mysteries. Lin Xiao looked at the place where Voldemort had just disappeared, and said unwillingly, damn it. Let him run away. Dumbledore looked at Lin Xiao in shock, he couldn't believe his eyes at all. What happened just now? Lin Xiao, how did you do it? It's nothing, it's the same as your magic, it's just another kind of magic. Lin Xiao said perfunctorily. It's not that Lin Xiao is perfunctory, he just doesn't know how to explain to Dumbledore. He used the ring just now to separate Harry and Voldemort. Rings can open a gap in space, not to mention two entities. It's just a pity that Voldemort disappeared instantly after separating from Harry. He had no time, no chance, to catch Voldemort. He's there. Cornelius Fudge, in his robe, gasped as if he had just run a few hundred kilometers. My God. At the Ministry of Magic? God. It's impossible. Corneli Fudge, you came just in time. Dumbledore was not surprised by his appearance, the rest of the Death Eaters are left to you, I believe this is not a difficult task for you. Thing. Dumbledore? Why are you here? I. Only then did Cornelius Fudge realize that standing in front of him was Dumbledore, whom he had been following for a long time without any news. He looked around, only Lin Xiao and Sirius were on Dumbledore's side, and his Aurors would be here soon. Cornelius Fudge took a fighting stance, Dumbledore, you're not going to get out of here today. Connolly, Dumbledore said in his calmest tone, I am ready to fight your men at any time, and I am sure that all of yours combined will not be my opponent. But you also saw, just a few minutes ago, Voldemort showed up, he showed up at your Ministry of Magic, and you didn't feel it for so long, I think you should have more important than my duel things to do. Sirius said impatiently to Cornelius Fudge, if you want to fight, then fight, what are you doing? Voldemort has already been driven away by us, will these little Aurors still care about them? 39. Minister Connolly, Lin Xiao stood in front of them, do you want another fight to happen here now? I didn't, well, no, I mean. Connolly snarled incoherently. He looked around, and none of the Aurors had arrived. He was more like hoping that someone would be able to stand at this time. Came out to tell him what to do, but no one was there. Okay, I'll deal with the Death Eaters here first. But, Dumbledore, you can't go. At least, I need you to tell me exactly what happened here just now. It's not a rush, I'm going back to Hogwarts now, and I'm eager to go back and see Harry, Dumbledore said. Harry? Harry Potter? Cornelius Fudge said, puzzled. He's doing fine at Hogwarts. What the hell happened? Why do you want to see him? What the hell is going on? This is not the time to explain, let's go back and see Harry first, Dumbledore repeated. I'll explain it all to you when you're done with things here and when you get back to Hogwarts. After speaking, Dumbledore stopped explaining, pointed at the round door with the magic 280 magic wand, and recited the spell, door key. Cornelius Fudge interrupted him, stop. Dumbledore, you have no right to use this port key, and I will never allow you to do this in front of me, the Minister for Magic. You. Cornelius Fudge's tone grew weaker under Dumbledore's eyes. You better not stop me. By the way, you better order Umbridge to leave Hogwarts, and get those second floors to stop chasing me and my magical creature's teacher so he can come back and continue work. Dumbledore suddenly turned cold. If so, I'll give you a little time tonight to make it clear to you what just happened here. You are presumptuous, said Cornelius Fudge. You dare to speak to me like that, Dumbledore. Are you challenging the authority of the Minister of Magic? Dumbledore didn't care about his growl, and continued, I'm going back to my school after you've dealt with everything here. Cornelius Fudge, listen up, I'm the headmaster of Hogwarts, Dumbledore. If you have anything in the future, you can come to Hogwarts to contact me, and I will welcome you at any time in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts. After Dumbledore finished speaking, he turned to look at Lin Xiao and Sirius. Cornelius Fudge's eyes widened. You. Lin Xiao and Sirius walked to Dumbledore's side. Dumbledore took out the key, and finally said to Cornelius Fudge, I'll be waiting for you at Hogwarts. In the next instant, Lin Xiao felt a strong suction, a golden light flashed in front of him, the black room disappeared in front of his eyes, and Cornelius Fudge also disappeared. He only felt a whirlwind, and his body came to the air. Before he could see anything clearly, he found himself and Sirius in Dumbledore's office. Everything here was the same as when Dumbledore was there, nothing changed. Lin Xiao looked out the window, it was already bright at this time. Hogwarts was as quiet as ever, as if everything that happened last night was just his illusion. On the wall, the portraits of the previous principals were still quietly in the frame. Dumbledore, why did you bring these two little guys here? Don't you know that this room is kept secret from everyone except the principal? Wait, Dumbledore, does your presence here mean you're coming back to us? I'm sorry to interrupt your rest so early, Dumbledore said apologetically, but now is not the time to chat. I'm going to take these two little guys to see Harry Potter. Having said that, Lin Xiao, Sirius and Dumbledore left the room together. Can only come to Harry's room. Harry has returned to normal, and is standing alone by the window, wondering what is he thinking. Harry. Dumbledore looked at him, very happy. He wasn't hurt in any way. Harry, you should be happy. You weren't hurt by last night's events, and none of your mates were hurt last night. Harry's expression was solemn, and he wanted to say yes, but couldn't make any sound, as if Dumbledore was reminding him of the injury he nearly caused because of his stupidity. Also, Lin Xiao, who was originally his battlefield, caused Lin Xiao to face such a dangerous situation by himself. Although Dumbledore, Lin Xiao's eyes were gentle and relieved, he still didn't dare to look into everyone's eyes. It's all over, Lin Xiao didn't suffer any harm, and Sirius is still standing here intact. Harry, this is the best ending. Harry nodded contentedly at the carpet, but still made no sound. Harry, I think I understand how you feel. 39 Dumbledore said kindly. No, you don't understand. Harry burst out, unable to contain his emotions. Dumbledore, you don't understand how I feel at all. Hey, I said Dumbledore, Sirius said quietly, approaching him, don't try to say that to the students, they hate it the most. For their age, hope it's a misunderstanding, an argument, or even a fight. In the future, don't tell them that you understand your feelings, they will go crazy. Enough, Sirius, said Dumbledore. Sirius hugged Harry's shoulder intimately. What's the matter? Harry, don't even I want to talk. Didn't you want to risk going to that dangerous place to save me before? 39. Harry looked at Sirius, who was safe and sound, and his heart that should have been rejoicing now became depressed. Harry turned his back to Dumbledore and them, looked out the window, and said nothing. Don't be sorry, Harry, it's not your fault. Lin Xiao looked at Harry's back and said, on the contrary, you should be proud of yourself, not everyone can persevere in such pain. After Harry heard Lin Xiao's words, he felt a fire burning in his chest. he was about to lose control, and he couldn't help but want to use the most vicious words to hurt this comrade who was in danger on his place just yesterday. Should I be proud of myself? Harry shuddered. You don't understand, what am I proud of? What am I proud of, you don't know. I don't know what. Lin Xiao asked. Harry clenched his fists, trying to control himself. I don't want to talk about my feelings at all right now, much less why I'm proud of myself, okay? Harry. Don't be like this, going through this, accepting it, including the pain, is part of your growth, Dumbledore said comfortingly. But, I don't want to grow up. Harry yelled, turning around and yelling at them, really, I don't want to grow anymore, I've had enough, I want to end this, I want everything it's over, I don't want to care about him anymore. I don't want to keep an eye on him all the time. Harry repeated, I'm fed up with his life all the time. 35. But you still care. Lin Xiao looked at him and didn't care about Harry's roars and collapses, his expression was calm, even a little indifferent. You can't control your own Harry, you care so much about him that this is a concern that makes you miserable enough to want to die. No. I'm not. Harley yelled and screamed, his voice so loud that it seemed that if he was loud enough, he was telling the truth. Harry even wanted to rush at Lin Xiao, breaking his calm face and self-righteous mouth, so that he might feel a little calmer. Don't you admit it yet? Dumbledore was calmer than Lin Xiao. Because of him, you lost your father and mother, so of course you care. You don't know me at all. Harry said, turning around. You don't know me at all. You guys go out and I want to be alone. Impossible, I thought you might want to know what happened last night. You think I want. I said, I don't care. With the money, I don't want to hear anything from you. Harry growled. You want to, 35 Dumbledore said quietly, I'm sure you want to know. Harry stared at Dumbledore, then looked blankly at Lin Xiao and Sirius, who was always looking at him worriedly. Please sit down first, said Dumbledore, a request, not an order. Harry hesitated for a moment, then slowly walked over to the bed and sat across from Dumbledore. Harry, I think you've guessed it, I owe you an explanation for the mistakes made by older people, Dumbledore said. The sun was slowly rising, and some strong rays shone on Dumbledore's face, making the wrinkles on his face even more pronounced. 15 years ago, when I first saw the scar on your forehead, I knew it might be a bond between you and Voldemort. I know that, Professor Dumbledore, you told me once. Harry interrupted impatiently, he didn't have the patience to listen to what he once knew. Well, Harry, said Dumbledore, so I've been watching you since you returned to the wizarding world, and I've since noticed that whenever Voldemort has a mood swing, or when he's trying to get close to you, the scars will react. This proves that my initial guess was correct. I know that too, Dumbledore. Harry was visibly irritable. Harry, haven't you found out yet? Dumbledore then began to look at Harry disapprovingly. This is one of your best abilities, the ability to feel Voldemort, the ability to detect his existence, and these abilities are not affected by the illusions he creates. 35. What do you mean? Harry didn't understand 280. Lin Xiao walked to Harry's side, patted him on the shoulder and said, it means that you are Voldemort's natural enemy. You didn't realize that, even though Voldemort made a disguise and made a deception, every time he prayed for a good mood, you still to be able to feel what he's really thinking. Especially when we know Voldemort has his body back and his magic is back on, it's getting more and more obvious to you. Yes, that's right. Harry nodded, not very pleased. So recently, Lin Xiao and I have become concerned that Voldemort may have known about this connection between you and him, Dumbledore said. It's actually too easy to spot. You can enter his mind many times, enough for him to notice this. Lin Xiao said, that's why you saw Sirius being attacked and arrested. I also know that the dream I had was what he wanted me to see. Harry has gradually become irritable, and so far, he has not received any new information. Then do you know why I never thought of explaining this to you before? Why have I been so indifferent to you this semester, and I could actually hand you brain defense myself, but I still handed it over to Professor Snape. Harry looked over, surprised that Dumbledore was speaking so plainly. Yes, I thought about these questions. Harry lowered his head and thought, after all, he had been puzzled by these questions for a long time. This is because, once Voldemort knows that you have a bond with him, he will take advantage of you. Lin Xiao added, Harry, you have to admit that you are far from exploiting your weaknesses. Far from being Voldemort's match. Lin Xiao got up and stood by the window, looked out the window and said, I guess it won't be long before Voldemort starts to enter your heart, affects your mind, and then completely manipulates your brain. Harry, I don't think you wanted it to become like this, right? And it's dangerous to let him know that there is something between you and Dumbledore that transcends the relationship between the headmaster and the students. Harry's mind gradually became clear, because he would use me to hurt Headmaster Dumbledore. No, it's not terrible at all, boy, Dumbledore said. He'll detect all of me in silence, and he'll have a deeper hold on you, and at that point, he'll use all means to reach the possibility that can control you. 35. All this is still a little weird to Sirius. Is that why Dumbledore is so far away from Harry? Yes, we have to admit that Voldemort will control him and use him when we get too close one day. Harry remembered one time, after looking into Headmaster Dumbledore's eyes, he felt like he saw a snake that was still sleeping, when all was said and done. Lin Xiao turned around and looked at Harry. You have experienced everything last night, and I believe you have also felt it. The ultimate purpose of Voldemort's domination of you is not to hurt Dumbledore, because with your current ability, these have caused how much damage. Yesterday's image appeared in his mind. Harry unconsciously curled up, the tearing pain seemed to come back. Did he want to kill me? My guess is that Voldemort won't be content forever with spying on you, and simply controlling you for a while is enough. He wants you to die, but he wants us to kill you more. Love watching cannibalism like this, don't you? That's why Headmaster Dumbledore is staying away from me to protect me. Harry, if you feel that doing this has hurt you, I also ask you to forgive me, Dumbledore said apologetically. This is an old man's mentality to protect his children. If he had heard these words earlier, he would have been very moved and didn't think it was such a great thing, but now, after going through such a tear and suffering and pain in his heart for so long, I don't think it's important, not at all. When I know that you feel Voldemort wake up from your heart, I confirm that my previous guesses are correct. Voldemort already knows that he can use you. Like last night, he made you dream of the room where the mystery was, and of course, about that prophecy ball. There is no doubt that Voldemort must have heard that prophecy, so he knows the way there, the room, the door. Then he let you know, although you don't know. What is all this? Lin Xiao listened quietly to Dumbledore explaining all this to Harry, looking at Harry's seemingly unmoved face, feeling a little irritable in his heart. Dumbledore continued, so, while the Ministry of Magic is a nightmarish place for many Death Eaters, you're not a Death Eater. Those prophecy balls that the prophecy refers to can easily pull off the shelf without having to take any damage. Voldemort wants to predict the ball, or go in by himself, or you go in for him. This is where it becomes even more important to learn to control yourself while Voldemort controls you. Hearing this, Harry felt even more guilty, but I didn't learn. He tried to speak as loudly as possible, as if that would ease the guilt in his heart. I'm impatient, I don't want to practice, I know I should control myself, stop having those dreams, don't believe them even if they do, like Hermione, Luna, Ronald, they advised me. But, Harry looked at Dumbledore. Where's Snape? You haven't told me what happened to him. I remember, he was also. Harry, Snape did nothing wrong. Dumbledore interrupted him calmly. I can assure you that Snape has done everything to the best of his ability. Harry was unmoved by this explanation. He shifted part of his guilt to blaming Snape, which seemed to ease his own unbearable anxiety, and he wanted to find various reasons to get Dumbledore and Lin Xiao to agree. Snape. Snape, he didn't do anything, he even laughed at Sirius. Harry said eagerly. Harry, I'm an adult, and I know exactly why he said that, and I don't think such a small taunt would make me unbearable. Sirius stood up and said. All of Harry's emotions were interrupted by a word from Sirius. But after I went to learn from him, my scars often hurt more than before. Didn't Snape make things worse? Harry roared, as if that would convince them more. How are you sure he's not trying to lower my defenses and make it easier for Voldemort to get in? I believe in Severus Snape. Dumbledore met his eyes. Harry, I believe in Snape, he is your professor. Lin Xiao added on the side, I also believe in Snape. Harry, you have to believe that if Snape wants to do anything to your brain, you have no room to resist, don't you? And you can still sit right now. Here is the best proof. At least it turns out that Snape is still a professor at Hogwarts, and there's nothing wrong with him teaching you occlumency. Harry couldn't believe that everyone believed Snape so much. He was shocked and said disapprovingly, but, Snape hates my father, doesn't he? He's not hate. Dumbledore said apologetically, I'm sorry, it's my fault too, I forgot that some injuries, as long as they happen, even if they heal, they will leave scars, and in every rainy season, they will continue to occur. A reminder of past pain. 35. I thought that Professor Snape, he had overcome the obstacle between you and your father, but, I was wrong. Dumbledore closed his eyes, looking a little tired. Harry looked at him, but Dumbledore's tiredness, guilt, didn't soften his. This gave him a kind of, as if everything is now, everyone has tried their best. In order to protect him, in order to save his only relative, Sirius, Lin Xiao went to that dangerous place alone, facing Voldemort alone. Dumbledore, who had been removed from the position of headmaster of Hogwarts for him, fought against Voldemort last night and brought back Sirius. All the people are doing their best, it seems that only he has achieved nothing. However, he clearly wanted to do everything well, but in the end, he still made everything worse. Dumbledore dropped his hand and looked at him from behind his glasses. Harry Potter, I think, it's time to tell you something. 35. What? Harry looked at him suspiciously. Something that should have been told to you years ago, Harry, Dumbledore said, pointing to the stool. You sit down and I'll tell you everything. It's just that I need you to have some patience, and when I'm done, if you want to get mad, or whatever, I won't stop you. Harry looked at him for a moment, then went back to the stool and sat down. Dumbledore glanced at Lin Xiao. Do you already know all those things? Basically. Lin Xiao said in a general way. Dumbledore nodded, and didn't avoid him any longer. I'm really glad you came to Hogwarts 5 years ago. Harry, you've grown up like I imagined. In person, I put you at your aunt's door. Harry, I'm very happy. Sorry for the disasters you've been through. He paused, and Harry suddenly didn't understand why Dumbledore had been apologizing today, and he had been apologizing for many things by now. However, he didn't say anything. Speaking of this, Lin Xiao wanted to ask a question. Harry is from the magical world, why didn't you find a wizard or a former professor in the school to adopt Harry? Then they would definitely regard Harry as their dearest son. Wouldn't it be better to love him and give him magic from a young age? 35. 0. 4 flowers. Dumbledore glanced at Lin Xiao, and then said, however, the most important thing for me at the time was to ensure the safety of Harry's life, and I needed him to live. Harry, who was a baby at the time, was less safe than everyone else. As soon as Dumbledore reminded, Lin Xiao understood. At that time, Voldemort had just disappeared, and the Death Eaters under Voldemort, as well as many of his supporters, were still running away, and they might cause more killings at any time, so, you need to send Harry to a place of absolute safety. This place is pure Muggle, so that Harry Potter cut off the possibility of learning magic. 99. 0. Yes, because at the time, we couldn't be sure whether Voldemort really disappeared, and it would probably take years to determine the news. I couldn't believe that Voldemort would disappear forever, and I was even sure that he would come back again. Just when will it come back? 10 years or 20 years, or 50 years, but I'm sure, he will definitely be back. Dumbledore looked at Harry and said, like I'm sure he's going to hit you. Voldemort knows more magic than any magician in the world knows, and I have always been certain that when he returns again, all my spells will no longer be able to defeat him. Dumbledore said calmly, acknowledging the fact that he had just fought Voldemort last night. However, I also know where Voldemort's weakness is, so I made my own decision. You have always been protected by magic that he knew but despised and even looked down upon. Of course, this protection method was left by your mother. For you, she gave you a method Voldemort could never have imagined. It's the blood that flows through you.